Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku Had to Watch Peace Die. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Bakugo Katsuki has never been good with words. For all of his 14 years, he'd never used his words in a constructive way. At least, not that he was aware of. If he could go back in time, he'd definitely slap his younger self. Catch, Deku! A ball hits Deku's face. His 4-year-old smile twists into one of pain, and he begins to cry. Kei-Kachin, that hurt. Deku blubbers. Oh whatever, it wasn't even that hard. Weakling. Katsuki murmurs under his breath. Not quiet enough. Deku hears. They should make a special school for quirkless weaklings like you. We don't want you here. Katsuki shoots to a smiling Deku, having aced his 6th grade exams. Katsuki hadn't done as well as he would have liked. Deku turns. Kachin, why do you say that dash? Because you're stupid and shitty, and I don't want that rubbing off on me. I'm not dash, Deku shrunk inward, eyes filling up with tears. I did very well on this test, so dash. A monkey could pass the exams, idiot. You're not special, the Don't get a big head, nerd. He shoved him roughly out of the way as he left. Oi, Deku. Bakugo roughly catches Deku's shoulder, and his friends creep up behind him. Deku squeaks. Who let this freak out of his cage? Bakugo snarks. His friends chuckle. Kei-Kachin dash. Get back in your kennel, Deku. Bakugo grabs Deku's collar and drags the terrified boy down the hall to one of the storage closets. Kachin, don't dash. Bakugo roughly shoves him in and locks it. His friends are now positively howling with derisive laughter. Shut up, you extras. Bakugo storms off, but not before saying over his shoulder to Deku, get back to the freak show where you belong. It all fell apart in 8th grade. Those acid words which he carelessly flung over his shoulder like breadcrumbs came back to bite him. Forget bite, rip his FING arm off. And it was all because of one boy. It was always FING Deku. Bakugo back then had 2 moods, angry and angrier. Any other was because of the green-haired nerd. The person that he loved to push away for no reason at all, other than he found him annoying. And he said things he regretted. And on that particular day came the biggest regret of all. Why don't you take a swan dive off the roof and pray you'll be born with a quirk in your next life? Deku turns, eyes full to brimming with unshed tears and pain. Those eyes bear right into Bakugo's, saying the words that Deku would never say. I hate you. But Bakugo has fire and smoke, and whenever he feels anything, he uses it to squash it down because emotions aren't who you are, and throws it around to everyone. Deku backs away, and Bakugo laughs, mirthlessly, thinking that, wow, at least I've got a better handle on my emotions than that shithead. He really doesn't. If anything, Deku's better than him at that too. And then he's outside. His extra friends have all left, and he's sitting in front of the school, doing his homework, thinking about everything he did today. Can't you just talk to him like a normal human being? Bakugo rubs his forehead, the oncoming tension of a stress headache pounding through his veins. God, his brain was right. Why couldn't he? Because you can't deal with emotion. Emotion isn't a necessary thing to people's everyday lives, so be it. He can live without feeling anything except anger. He doesn't need it. Mistake. Mistake. Why don't you take a swan dive off the roof and pray you'll be born with a quirk in your next life? Huge, enormous mistake. There's a boy up on the roof. I think he's gonna jump. Bakugo starts. Someone is yelling on the other side of the yard. Bakugo shoots up to see a familiar figure standing on the railing. A placid smile decorates his face, and tears are dripping from his distorted expression, with his arms outstretched, already tilting to let gravity do the rest. And Bakugo runs to catch him. And all he gets is empty air. As Izuku hits the ground. Sickening. Someone call a paramedic, right F now? Bakugo remembers screaming. It's him. The teacher is calling a paramedic. People cluster around Izuku's twisted body, limbs splayed, blood dripping down his ruined face. KK dash. He's talking to me. Bakugo pushed through the crowd. The paramedics are hauling Deku's body into the ambulance. The last thing he hears is from those broken windpipes is, "Happy now." The waiting room is very cold, Bakugo notices. Cold and sterile. And everything is white. Literally everything, the chairs, tables, heck, even the window frames are white. Which is a stark contrast to Bakugo, because he feels dirty, vulgar, unclean. I told him to kill himself and he actually did. He heard. He listened. His mother had once told him that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. At the time, he dismissed it as motherly banter, like the phrase, everything in moderation, which really means, everything in really little portions except for gross veggies. But she was right. She was right. He jumped because of me, oh my god. Miss Inko? Bakugo starts. Midoriya's mother, who was sitting next to him, stands. Bakugo peers over to see the portly woman slowly get up and walk over to the tired-looking doctor. Is my Izuku alright? Will he live? She asks. The doctor's face is grim. He slowly, ever so slowly shakes his head. Bakugo's head spins. His vision begins to tunnel, a sharp intake of breath only making the blackout worse. He stumbles back, collapses into his chair. He's dead. He's dead. Holy shit, he's actually dead. We tried our best, but his injuries were too severe. Part of his brain and spinal cord were badly damaged and... The doctor puts his hand on a sobbing Aunt Inko's shoulder, but Bakugo hardly notices. His head is surprisingly clear, but his mind circles back to one thought. Your fault. I have to get out of here. Bakugo runs. He runs out of the waiting room, down the flights of stairs, and out into the parking lot, past the cars, blurring into an unfinished watercolor painting of hues, and when his legs give out, he falls to his knees and sobs. God, he's forgotten what it feels like to cry. He's forgotten what it's like to feel it all. But that doesn't matter, because Izuku is dead and it's all his fault. He wouldn't have jumped if not for him. I killed him. Bakugo looks up at the quavering sky, stars too hard to decipher through the tears. I killed Izuku. Excuse me? Bakugo turns. The old lady who lives near him is walking out of the hospital, red scarf around her neck. She looks concerned. Young man, why are you crying? Bakugo sniffs. He tries to get his rampant tears under control. Nothing. Nothing. Go away. His go away comes out as a little mumbled. The old lady looks unconvinced. Do your parents know you're out here? Bakugo shrugs. They're not here. I came here with my aunt, but... He bites his lip to keep from crying. She's going to be here for a while. The lady nods. I'm Kureha Yurishiro. Do you need a ride home? Bakugo wants to shove her away. But part of him doesn't have the strength to. I notice we live by each other, and I thought it's be convenient for you. You don't look like you particularly care to go back inside. Sure. Bakugo mumbles. That'd be great. Thanks. The car is old, and smells like yakitori. Bakugo doesn't actually mind that much. Why were you in the hospital? Bakugo asks quietly. My husband's had a slide and I came to check in on him. He's doing alright. You. She turns, a bluish-purple eye piercing into him. There's a flash of green in the rearview mirror for a second. Bakugo thinks he's imagining it. My friend got hurt. Bakugo clenches his fists angrily. He didn't want to say it. Saying it would make it real. He didn't make it. A single tear traitorously slips down his face. Oh. Kureha turns to look at the road again. I'm sorry. It's okay. They don't say anything for the remainder of the ride. Bakugo doesn't go back to school. There was only a month left, anyways. No one was missing him. Probably. He sits in his room most of the time. He hardly comes out. He hardly eats, doesn't bother with hygiene, and doesn't sleep at all. Deku is dead. Deku is dead. He's repeated the word dead so many times in his head that it started to lose its meaning. Saying a word over and over again makes it sound funny, like a foreign word. Bakugo's glad for that effect. It makes the word lose a bit of its impact. Deku is dead. Bakugo curls further into the ball that he was contorting himself into, despite aching and protesting limbs. He smells, but he's long stopped caring. He's forgotten what day it is. They all blend together. I killed Deku. That was the thought that came back to haunt him. He was directly responsible for the death of another human, particularly he wanted to apologize to, but never did, and now he never will. The regrets. Many things he'd wanted to say and do for and with Deku. Apologize, mostly. Feelings he'd suppressed had all burst loose in that parking lot, and now he was just trying to rein them together. All the feelings were coming right at him, at a speed he wasn't used to. He doubted he'd ever would be. 9 years of emotional suppression is just too much, and Bakugo has overloaded. Part of Bakugo wishes he would just die in his sleep. He'd deserve it. But while most of his brain was saying no, don't die, a dark, recessed part of his brain was saying that death was too mercifully quick. I killed Deku. I am responsible for another person's death. Katsuki? His father creaks open the door. Bakugo turns to face him. The few times his parents had tried to help, it was either his mom or both of them. Never just his dad. His dad didn't talk much. What? Bakugo grunted, voice raw from lack of use. Nothing. Just came to check on you, sport. His dad sat down on the bed. If you're going to try and say something corny to make me feel better, it won't work. Mom tried. His dad sighs. I won't. I just wanted to see if you were still alive. I wish I weren't. His dad fidgets a bit. It's CKD that he'd inherited his dad's social awkwardness and his mom's temper. Bad combo. The uni entrance exams are soon. Forget it. Bakugo turns away from his father. This has been your dream since you were little. I know, it's just, I'm no hero. I don't deserve to be there. His dad quirks an eyebrow. What makes you say that? My parents don't know they raised an a-hole. Nothing. Not going. He turns around and put the pillow back on his head. What? They are coming up though, so. He stands up and places a letter on his bed. In case you change your mind. It was a letter. About the test. Your mother and I think you should go back to Dr. Sumika. That I don't need a mother FANG therapist right now. What I need is for you to leave me alone. His dad sighs and leaves the room. The room was quiet for a long time after that, as Bakugo struggles to make up his mind. Go or no? He mutters. He shouldn't go. He doesn't want to go. But a little voice in the back of his head won't leave him alone. To hell with it. He yanks open the door and shouts to the whole house. All right, I'll go. You motherfuckers happy? His dad smiles slightly. That's my boy. He says softly, smile widening. Oh, and take a shower, his mom interjects. 'Cause you effing your rank. Bakugo feels as if he should be nervous. He isn't. Not really, at least. He's grown a little numb to outside things. It's as if he's retreated inside himself. It's February. He's been a vegetable for a while now. After a few visits to Dr. Sumika, some time to cope, and his parents trying their best to help, he's starting to function again. The storm inside his head hasn't lessened, but he's learned his way through it. He can navigate. He's not stuck in his catatonic state. The good thing is he can function and leave the house more. The bad thing is reality has set in. It just felt so unreal the first weeks. That an ever-constant presence in his life had suddenly vanished, the yang to his yin, as overly poetic as that sounded. But now he was gone, and despite all his words, saying that he'd be better off without him, Bakugo felt lost. Like someone blew out his torch in a dark cave. He was dead. It might not have hurt so much if it weren't for the fact that it was partially his fault. He stays up, just thinking, replaying the scenario over and over. Bakugo runs to catch him. But he's not fast enough. And Deku hits the ground. If he thought about that at night when his eyes were closed, then it transformed into dreams, where he chases Deku down the school halls, and Deku laughs as Bakugo tries and fails to catch him. And he wakes up on the floor, in a cold sweat. Is this what it was like to lose someone? Bakugo hates it. Mostly, he reflects on his behavior. All the arrogance and anger, directed at one boy, one who irritated him, simply because he couldn't tell what he felt towards him, so he bottled it all up instead. He was no hero. He was a villain. He had almost a whole 6 months of training to catch up on, so he went to the beach. He'd train himself into a stupor until exhaustion took hold and he'd collapse onto the sand, or his dad would show up and take him home. One day, early in the morning, he went to the beach to run. He was getting to his usual area when he stopped. A familiar green head was sitting on a picnic blanket, a basket next to her. Aunt Inko? Ms. Midoriya turns. She seems to have aged 3 years in the short 6-month PRD. Bakugo hasn't seen her since the day in the hospital. Katsuki? She sounds just as confused as he was. What are you doing here so early? He asked. Oh well, I was feeling down and I thought I'd have a picnic here. It was... She trails off, her green eyes looking suspiciously watery. It was Izuku's favorite spot. Bakugo doesn't really know how to respond to that. Finally, he sits down next to her. You mind? She shakes her head. She offers him a bento. He takes it. I'm sorry. And Inko says, why? Bakugo asks, confused. If anything, he should be the one apologizing to her. I heard you haven't been in school for a while, not since, you know. And I should have been there. You are a son to me just as much as Izuku was. Even if you don't always appreciate it. Katsuki stares at Aunt Inko's watery eyes, something deep and primal resting deep within them. He stares until his resolve breaks, and he wraps his arms around himself in shame. It's not why. I thank you. He finally mutters. Thanking someone is still a foreign concept to him, and the words taste weird on his tongue. Or maybe it's because he knows he doesn't deserve the thanks. They continue eating in silence, staring out onto the sunrise, seagulls circling their picnic blanket, the last filters of night seeping away into the rose-gold daylight. There were a lot of things I wanted to say to Izuku before he died. Bakugo admits. Like what? Aunt Inko asks. Bakugo hesitates, unsure of how much he should say. This is Izuku's mother, after all. And he doesn't want to shatter the tentative peace between them. Your haircut is silly. He mummers. Aunt Inko breaks out into a laugh, though it sounds a little watery. And I could see your answers during the big final test and I copied off of it, and I never apologized. And that you have a really nice singing voice, so stop bashing yourself. And I actually don't mind when you call me Kachin. And dash. Bakugo stops talking to compose himself. He knows if he says anything else, he will break down completely. But he at least wants to get these words out, even if they make no sense to anyone who isn't him. I'm sorry. He chokes out, tasting defeat, guilt, and shame, emotions he's become all too familiar with. Katsuki, what do you have to be sorry for? And Inko asks, confused. Bakugo doesn't answer. He doesn't want to. They finish their breakfast in silence. Finally, Bakugo stood up. I should probably get home. My parents are probably wondering what's taking me so long. Aunt Inko nods. Then, surprisingly, she hugs him. Please, if you ever need to talk, call me. She parts the hug and leaves, and Bakugo is left there, frozen. He starts to laugh, which is a rather watery laugh, and he knows if he keeps this up, he'll start crying again. Aunt Inko hasn't hugged him since he was 6, and it's a rather nostalgic feeling. And then it's the day of the entrance exam. Bakugo forces himself to get up early, and it's not something his body is used to. His limbs feel like lead. He doesn't eat much breakfast. Instead, he tries to push down the lingering nausea in his stomach and convince himself that he will be fine, that he doesn't have anything to worry about. The car ride is pretty quiet. His mother looks tense when she drops him off and doesn't say much, but turns to face him when they arrive. Do your best, Katsuki. And even if you don't get in, I want you to know that we're proud of you. Bakugo nods and risks a smile. But as he's climbing out, his mother says something that stops him in his tracks. I think that Izuku would have been proud of you too. Bakugo whips his head around so fast, he can hear his neck joints crack and snap, but his mother's already closed the door and is driving off. Bakugo is left there with a bag in his hands, and a head filled with a storm that's just been unleashed in his brain. Proud? Of him? Bakugo slowly turns, mind still reeling from this sudden turn of events. He'd thought he'd had control of the ship, but a wave has just hit him, and he's lost control of the rudder. Proud? Bakugo doesn't really register present mixed speech to everyone at the entrance hall. He knows he has to destroy the robots, and there was one that was worth 0 points, but he doesn't know which one it is. Proud? And then he's there, standing with a huge crowd of people, right by the entrance to one of the fake cities. People chatting casually around him, warming up, stretching, or simply looking nervous. But Bakugo doesn't register any of this, because something's hit him, and his storm has changed from numbingly cold sleet to blistering, blazing hot fire. He's just trying to mess me up, trying to screw with me. He's probably laughing it up in heaven right now, at how much of a pathetic failure I am. He killed himself to spite me. The fire boils his blood, white-hot anger filling Bakugo's veins, searing him down to the core. He's shaking out of anger. A few people are looking at him weird, but he doesn't care. He's heard of seeing red before, but now, his vision is literally lined with red. The horn sounds. Bakugo is at the front of the pack, charging into the fray with an explosive scream. The robots don't stand a chance against Bakugo's inhuman rage. The first one folds in on itself, and the second one literally disintegrates. Bakugo is no stranger to anger. But this one is different. His normal anger was just a facade for his emotions. This anger is primal, explosive, all-consuming. It shakes him down to his bones, fills him with adrenaline, and in the midst of all of this, he realizes he's laughing. "Okay?" asks a freaked-out-looking guy with spiky red hair. Bakugo grins, baring canines and something menacing. He's never been better. When Bakugo gets home, he runs to his room. His father doesn't say anything, but simply stares at the back of his head, his concern leaking out of his stupid, insipid expression. His mother notices. "Katsuki, honey, are you dash?" "I'm fine," he shouts back. His mother looks a little stunned at his sudden change of mood. He had flipped from withdrawn, back to his explosive self. If anything, maybe she's a bit relieved. Bakugo doesn't know, nor does he care. The minute he gets to his room, Bakugo punches the wall as hard as possible, leaving a fist-sized dent in his wall. He wants to scream, and yell, and kick something because Deku is a selfish idiot and it wasn't his fault. So he heads to the beach to train. There, he lets the full force of his anger fly into every punch and kick and blow. 10 minutes into this endeavor, he's cleared a whole ring of trash around him and everything else around him is either destroyed, charred, or burnt. Wow. Someone's not happy. Bakugo turns and fires off an explosive punch in the direction of the stupid idiot who sounded so effing relaxed at a moment when nothing was okay. Dude. The punch had missed by mere inches, but the blue-haired looks absolutely undaunted. Bakugo turns to face him and sees a lanky boy, maybe his age, with bluish hair and bags under his eyes that could rival his own, or Deku on his last days of being alive. Fing. "Oh hey, I remember you. You were the one who was laughing like a maniac during the entrance exam, right? Yeah, I can see why Kakeru almost shat himself at the sight of you." The boy slides off the wrecked car he was sitting on. Upon further notice, he's a few inches taller than Bakugo, which he guessed was saying something, since Bakugo is slightly above average. Not much though. Yeah. Was he laughing? He doesn't really remember. You know, you look more depressed than a laughing angry maniac if anything. The boy remarks, a sly grin sliding onto his face. Finally, a fellow comrade. Bakugo blinks. He's never met anyone with such a black sense of humor. "Who the do you think you are, baggy eyes?" Bakugo growls, but it lacks any real menace. Baggy eyes? Like you're one to talk. Bakugo can't really argue with that. His eyes have huge dark circles under them from his many sleepless nights. "So, were you at the entrance exams?" Bakugo asks. He talks as if he was there, but yet, Bakugo didn't see him. Come to think of it, he wasn't really paying attention, so it's not really matters. "Yeah. I was kinda in the back, so figures you didn't see me." The boy stretches and shifts his gaze. Bakugo gets the feeling that he didn't do super great. "How'd you do?" He asks anyways, just for sheets and giggles. Well, I SCKD during the practical exam. But I know some guys in the administration, and they were able to pull a few strings. The boy responds. Who? Now he's kinda curious. Shoyuta Aizawa. He's my uncle. Ah. The guy did look a little familiar. Anyways, I gotta go. The boy turns and hops back atop the wrecked car with ease, like he'd been doing it for years. Oh, what's your name? Bakugo yells after him. The guy turns and cracks a smirk. No one. He replies. And Bakugo blinks, and he's gone. He got in. He got his letter one day, and sure enough, Bakugo had been accepted into Class 1A with flying colors. He was first in the practical exams, and had achieved one of the highest scores in record. He feels like he should be happy, but he feels kind of numb. His family is ecstatic, of course. His mom makes a huge dinner and invites Aunt Inko over, and it's a great time, at least for them. Bakugo just tries to smile through his anger towards the whole prospect. The anger has died down though, leaving a lot of questions. Like, why on earth would Deku do this to spite him? Couldn't he have done something else? Did he do this to spite him? A part of him knew that it was still his fault. But the part was silenced by the firestorm raging inside his head. He decides to go back to the beach the next morning to vent his frustration. The clear ring is still there, but no sleazy blue-haired F-. And so, he's taken to blowing the trash to bits in order to vent. His palms are sweaty, his knees are weak, and his knuckles are bleeding. He doesn't really care. Ah, young man, I see you're helping clean up the beach? Bakugo turns. An old, skeletal and blonde-haired man is standing on the small sidewalk right by the beach. He's almost 6.5 feet tall, and his eyes are completely black, save for his glowing blue pupils. Bakugo squints. The man looks like he's on death's doorstep. Good, the man says. Not many are investing any time. It makes me sad to see a beach like this all dirty. His black eyes flit to the car back over to Bakugo. Why the F are you out here at 5 a.m.? Bakugo states simply. Why are you? The man shoots back. I like punching things and I don't like people. Not to mention sleep Sue. Bakugo goes back to launching another explosive punch at a fridge. Why was he talking to this guy? He didn't even know him. Can you go away? Bakugo finally says dryly. The man laughs. No, I'm afraid I can't. I'm meeting someone here, so I have to wait. You're free to leave, however. Bakugo grumbles some obscenities he doesn't really mean and goes back to disintegrating junk. My name is Toshinori. Yours? The man asks. Why are you telling me this? Bakugo finally turns around and makes direct eye contact with the guy for the first time. You look like you're on death's doorstep. If you're looking for some sad kid to spend your last days with, then I'm not the right guy. Find someone who actually knows what the F to do with himself. Bakugo turns away, not wanting his eyes to betray how lost he was feeling right now, much less to a complete stranger. The man, Toshinori, doesn't look taken aback by Bakugo's harsh words. If anything, his eyes shine with pity, exuding out of his entire being. Bakugo wants to punch him. I'm Dash. He realizes he should maybe apologize for being rude. Sore Dash. The words get caught in his throat, and he wants to cry and scream, the familiar rush of emotion overtaking him. But there's a random old guy in front of him, and that'd be really weird if he just broke down right then and there. Bye. He turns to run back home, but he catches Toshinori's next words. Don't worry, young Bakugo. We'll see each other soon. There's a whoosh of wind above him, just as Bakugo registers that the guy knows his name. And Toshinori is gone. Damn it, what is with mysterious cryptids vanishing in front of me and this beach? Bakugo's mom takes him uniform shopping. It's a quiet ordeal, mostly with her cutting in from time to time and telling him how proud she is. Other than that, she doesn't say much. Simply asking him what he likes and if it fits and whatever. Bakugo doesn't say anything. He doesn't have to. The anger in his stomach has been replaced with churning, constant anxiety, as if someone was going to start accusing him of being Deku's suicide instigator, and he'd have to defend himself any minute. Neither the sleazy blue-haired F- or Mr. Toshinori the blonde cryptid have showed back up on the beach. Bakugu's happy and sad for that. On one hand, no one's bothering him. But on the other hand, well, no one's bothering him. After Deku's death, Bakugu had suddenly realized that the world did not revolve around him, contrary to what he believed. And what's more, he might not even be the main character of the story of his generation of heroes. He might have killed the protagonist. Stupid. Did. That. He did this to himself. I had nothing to do with it. His hand is shaking as he fills his cup of water at the sleazy Italian chain he's at. Liar. The cup hits the ground with a loud thunk and breaks into a million tiny pieces, reflecting the face of a sad and scared boy that Bakugu has become. He almost doesn't recognize himself. Katsuki? His mother runs over to see him staring blankly down at his broken cup, water pooling onto the floor and soaking his shoes. Oh no, I am not paying for this cup. She growls. Bakugu shifts tensely. Can we go now? He asks, voice raw from disuse. His mother looks concerned. He stares at a clothing rack, refusing to meet her eyes. Okay. She says finally. She doesn't ask what's wrong. She doesn't have to. Yagi's running out of time. He knows he doesn't have much time left to choose his successor. He's desperately searching, but he hasn't found anyone. The box of his favorite American takeout food trembles in his hands. The food doesn't taste as good as it normally does. He's on a time limit, he knows it, but he doesn't know who to give it to yet. Every time he's talked with Nezu, he's brought it up. Aizawa gives him questioning glances, his eyes saying what his lips do not. Even Torino's concerned, actually going as far as to call him. If that wasn't a surefire sign he needed to hurry the hell up, then he didn't know what was. He's so concerned with his predicament that he doesn't notice he's walking at a rapid pace towards a young boy before they've collided. His box goes flying. The bag the young man is carrying drops on the ground as the kid tries his best to get his stuff together. My fault. The boy doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. It's the boy. The one from the beach. Granted, Yagi already knew that Bakugu Katsuki was going to be the odd one out at UA. The fact that he was brash, rude, and sullen would stick out like a sore thumb in a class full of optimistic heroes. Which was why Yagi hadn't been able to get the boy out of his mind. It was the eyes. His face radiated anger and disdain, but his eyes were different. They held some form of unspeakable suffering, as if he had some silent burden to carry that no one else could. Yagi was familiar with that expression. He'd looked like that too when Nana died. Thank you, young man. Yagi says, but Bakugu's still staring at him. Skeletor. He mumbles, mostly to himself. Yagi raises an eyebrow. Skeletor? He says. Bakugu goes red in the face. Sorry, that's what I've been calling you in my head. He shoves Yagi's box back into his hand, and power walks off in the direction of the exit. Sorry about that, OKB. He practically runs out the door. Yagi is a little surprised. He's heard reports of this child's brash, abrasive, and rude personality, but he didn't seem like that at all to Yagi. He seems withdrawn. If anything, a bit shy. Yagi sighs. What an odd boy. The fated first day. Bakugu isn't the most ready person in the world to start at UA, but he feels alright. Alright enough to function. He takes coffee with him anyways. He's running on about 5 hours of sleep. The walk is relatively short. It's a sunny, yet cool, day, so he's not roasting in his stupid uniform. Who came up with the idea of ties, anyways? Bakugu thinks, unraveling the tie and sticking it in his bag. Ties as he... Then he's there. UA looms over him like some intimidating giant. All the anxiety he's compressed in his gut comes spilling out right now, and he's jolted back into his body, into the situation. I am at UA. The nauseous feeling subsides and he walks in. It's just as clean as he remembers. The walls are decorated with awards from other students and windows. A lot of windows. Bakugu's actually kinda glad for that. It makes him feel less claustrophobic. The trees and scenery make him feel better? Not the right word, but whatever. He's at UA. Now is the time for leaving the past behind him. A flash of green swishes by him in the window. Bakugu jolts and turns around quickly. It's just him. Like the knight in Kuria's car. God fing damn it. Bakugo was never the master of subtly. But today he does not want to be noticed. He creeps into the classroom quietly, trying not to be too conspicuous, but then he spots a familiar head of purple-blue hair at the back of the room. Cryptid. The blue-haired cryptid guy looks up from the book he's reading to look at him. He looks just as tired as that day on the beach. Oh, it's you. He goes back to reading his book. Bakugo blinks. He then realizes that the whole class is staring at him. Do you? A pink-haired girl sitting on her desk asks. Know him? Mr. Explodaboy tried to kill me on the beach. Cryptid guy cuts in before Bakugo can put in a single word edgewise. You what? Another student stands up, with thick, square glasses, looking horrified. He surprised me, and I might have sent an explosion at him, but I was training. He defiantly sticks his chin up and crosses his arms. If he'd just approached me normally, then I wouldn't have accidentally almost sent him to the hospital. He turns, with some effort, and looks at Cryptid Guy. Sorry, by the way. He mumbles. He's still not used to apologizing, since he's not used to things being his fault. Whatever, he can SCK it up. Whatever, man. Cryptid Guy goes back to his book, a warrior's book, if Bakugo sees it correctly, and proceeds to tune out the rest of his classmates' chatter. They seem to be ignoring him. That's okay. He takes a seat in front of the Cryptid Guy, and puts his bag down. You're still here? Cryptid Guy looks confused. You seemed angry at me. No, just confused that you're here. I figured. Bakugo cuts off a rude retort that he shouldn't say. That's second nature to him. That I wouldn't get in. Bakugo looks back up and nods. Yeah. You seemed like the exams really effed you up or something. They did. He tucks a loose curl. He looked as if he was going to ignore everything related to the exams that Bakugo threw at him, so he changes the subject. How'd you disappear on the beach that day? Is. The Cryptid Guy looks at him funny. My quirk. He mumbles. Bakugo thought he might be quirkless, but he didn't want to ask. It felt weird. What's your quirk? Bakugo asks quietly. Mind control. He mumbles, like he's afraid to answer. Oh, neat. Bakugo looks at the clock, and back at Cryptid Guy. I'm Bakugo Katsuki. I knew that. Cryptid Guy replies. He sound almost surprised. What? Shinso Hitoshi. He mutters and sticks out his hands. His nails are chewed down to stubs. Bakugo shakes it. Hey! Everyone turns towards the speaker of the words. The voice is low and gruff, like he hadn't slept in a week. Slowly, everyone's gazes trail down to see a 20-something-year-old man, laying in a sleeping bag, drinking a Capri Sun. What in the fresh tea do I? Bakugo mumbles to himself. He's wondering how the hell this hobo got into the school in the first place, when his brain starts to pick up on some things. He looks suspiciously like Shinso. They have the same nose, same tired eyes, same greasy hair. That wouldn't happen to be Dash, Bakugo hisses to Shinso, who holds up a hand to stop him from stating the obvious. Yeah. Shinso's gaze is trained to the floor. That's my Uncle Aizawa. Okay, calm down, He-Man remarks, his quiet voice somehow carrying over the din and stopping everyone in their tracks. It's too early in the morning for all this riffraff. Are you our homeroom teacher? An electric blonde boy asks, shooting up from his chair. Duh. Bakugo mutters a little too loudly, causing the alien-esque girl who dumped a bottle of water on Spiky Hair's head earlier to glare at him, and his face turns red. My name is Aizawa. Aizawa pulls himself out of his sleeping bag, to reveal that he's actually rather short, and is wearing a scarf that appears to be made out of ace bandages? Well, he did show up in a sleeping bag, drinking a Capri Sun, looking like me in the mornings, so I'm just gonna roll with it. Once you're all done with, he gestures to the mess that the class has already made in the short 10 minutes they'd been there, with an annoyed crinkle in his brow. Whatever this is supposed to be, change into your gym uniforms, and come down to the testing field. But sir, the square guy with the glasses shoots up out of his seat so fast that a small great midget falls over. Aren't we supposed to be at orientation by 9? The whole class glared daggers at Square Man. No one wants to go to the orientation, Not really. Bakugo agrees. Orientations are boring as hell, and he'd also rather not have his but go numb from sitting there for 3 whole effing hours. At this school, teachers teach however they want to. And in my case, I think the orientation is a waste of time. The class heaved a sigh of relief before one of the girls, was that a floating skirt? Exclaims, I know, right? The class starts chatting to each other at random about how they're glad they don't have to go to the orientation, about how Aizawa is a cool teacher, that maybe this year won't be as grueling as everyone thinks. Wait for it. Shinso mumbles to Bakugo through gritted teeth. What do you mean? Bakugo hisses back. He's never this lenient, there's a catch somewhere. Do you think this is all fun and games? Aizawa growls, and the class goes dead silent. You think I'm letting you out of orientation and letting you use your quirks because I'm nice? No one made a sound. You could hear a pin drop. Okay, Aizawa sighs, how about this? Whoever places last in the quirk apprehension test will be expelled. Absolute silence. There it is. Shinso mumbles, mostly to himself. But Aizawa-sensei. Someone exclaims. It's one of the girls with the earphone jacks coming out of her ears. That's hardly fair, is it dash? You expect villains to be fair? Aizawa retorts. You think that the villains won't attack where you least expect it, won't target your weak points and fears to exploit you, because that's not fair? You think they'll just give you a designated time where they'll show up? Aizawa turns, brown eyes glinting red. Guess what? He says, deadly quiet. They won't. With that, he turns and heads off towards the fields. The rest of the class stands behind the door, shocked, except for Shinso, who casually slogs over to the door. Guess we'd better go change then. He says, a smug smile on his face. The test is a little underwhelming. Bakugo tries his hardest, but he's not really feeling the fire like he was on the entrance exam. It's kind of fizzled out at this point, all that's left is the churning anxiety. He scores lower than he should. The others notice, with the red-haired one from the exam giving him some odd looks during the test. His scores are in the middle-ish range. At the end, he's probably scored in 10th place or something. But there's still the ball throw. Bakugo steps up to the plate. He's not sure how he can beat the round-faced girl, who launched the ball into the sun, a feat Bakugo will probably never understand. But in any case, he takes a deep breath, leans back, and hurls. Over here. Katsuki throws the tennis ball in the direction of his green-haired friend. The ball soars and Izuku runs, trying to grab it. He does, but his foot catches on a rock and he falls. Katsuki laughs at him, as Izuku climbs back up, brushing dirt off of his preschool jumper. That's not funny, Kaken. Izuku exclaims. Katsuki continues laughing, and it's infectious. Soon, the two of them are sitting together and laughing. Finally, they get back up. You want to keep playing? Izuku asks. Nah, I'm done with catch for today. Let's go down to the creek. Sure. The duo runs off in the direction of the creek, leaving the tennis ball behind. They never found it again. 412 meters. The device measuring the exclaims. The class gasps at Bakugo's impressive display of power. But Bakugo doesn't hear any of that. All he can hear is the ringing in his ears. Bakugo, Bakugo. He snaps back to Aizawa, almost yelling at him. Your turn is over. Please get out of the way for the next person. Okay. Muttley, he trudges out of the field and over to the bench, where some of his classmates are sitting, and the pink one scoots over to make room for him. You good? Asks a boy with long teeth. Yeah, I just need to sit down for a minute. Bakugo mumbles. He doesn't say much after that. In the end, a girl named Hagakure Toru was last in the test. Aizawa, true to his word, expels her. That's gotta be really disappointing. Shinso points out, as he and Bakugo watch a dejected Hagakure leave the room with her stuff. After all she must have done to get into the school, only to be expelled. I bet her parents are gonna be sad at the school. Bakugo replies. He feels kinda bad for her. What if it had been him? Whatever. He doesn't even know her, so it's not like he cares much anyways. You wanna walk down with me to the bus stop? Shinso asks almost shyly. What? No one's ever asked Bakugo if they wanted to walk to a bus stop. Well, except for. Sure. He replies. So the duo walks down to the stop. Bakugo has the nerve to ask what the book Shinsu's reading is about, and is treated to a 10-minute ramble Bakugo kinda follows. But not really. See you tomorrow, Explodo boy. Shirnu says as he climbs onto the bus. Bye. The bus pulls away in a cloud of smoke, and Bakugo watches it all the way down the street. How was your first day? His mom asks when Bakugo gets home. He thinks about his classmates. Shinso the cryptid ranting about warrior cats. Their teacher rolling up in a sleeping bag, drinking a Capri Sun. Hagakure's expulsion. Kind of underwhelming, actually. Bakugo replies. His mom laughs. I'd like to hear this. Bakugo hesitantly obliges. Bakugo hopes and prays that the next day will be significantly less stressful. With the pressure of being expelled and the fact that Aizawa is a total douchehog, not that he's ever say that to him, the guy is terrifying as ball, and the load of homework they somehow managed to get assigned on the first day? Bakugo kind of wishes he had stayed at his old high school. Being a hero is cool and all, but is it really worth that much homework? Yes, a small part of his brain replies, yes it is, and you deserve all this work you need to atone. Atonement is probably what's keeping Bakugo from curling up into a ball and simply staying put when his mom comes to wake him up. He pulls himself out of bed with great effort and starts his morning routine. On the way to school, Bakugo stops by the park. He had made sure to leave early, since he didn't want to be late, but it was for a different reason. The old hideout that he and his friends had made back in grade school was still there. The sticks that held up the roof made out of leaves was still intact, the dusty cooler that had been abandoned on Dabo Beach sat unused in the corner, and out of the corner of Bakugo's eye he can see a small plastic bag tucker carefully into a corner behind the old willow tree the fort was set up in. Bakugo pulls it out. It was a small deck of collectible hero trading cards. There are only about 7 in there, but they all seem to be pretty rare ones. Midoriya's small deck. The deck of hero cards that he wanted to start collecting. The ones that came from the Pocky boxes. Bakugo remembers why they're here. Deku had left them there and came back to get them, but that was the day Deku was kicked out of the fort. There was a scuffle that ended in Bakugo hitting Deku with an explosive punch. He remembers the small scar it left on his lip that stretched out when he smiled. He never did apologize for that. Slowly, Bakugo puts the bag of cards in his school bag, not entirely sure why he's doing it. He turns to leave, but as he's doing so, the urge to take more stuff comes over him: Tsubasa's forgotten cap, the club rules sheet, a small and beat-up All Might action figure. Instead of doing that, Bakugo quells the urge and speed walks out the fort, the ghost sounds of other kids playing echoing around him. You were almost late. Shinso drawls when Bakugo slams down onto his desk. Geez, thanks for reminding me. Bakugo growls, frustrated. Shinso rolled his eyes and put his head back down on the desk. Wake me up when class starts. Suddenly, the door burst open, and who would walk through but All Might? The entire class exclaims at once. I am here. Walking through the door like a normal person. All Might says, definitely not walking like a normal person. Shinso snickers. He looks like he has a cramp. He mumbles, and it takes all of Bakugo's self-control not to burst into laughter. No then, today we are doing a training exercise, he says, and the entire class cheers, except for Shinosu, who mumbles ori, and goes back to drooling on his desk. Now then, the support department finished on your prototype costumes, so, if you don't mind, go change into those. The entire class rushes out of the room, eager to change, leaving a few of the slower, or more tired, in Shinsu's case, classmates behind. The bird dude sniffs and heads for the door. The path to heroism is paved with beaten foes, some of which are friends. He says, to absolutely no one. Another guy, who looks really weird with rocky skin and big eyes, shrinks in his seat. Yes, you come one. The boy slinks towards the door, looking petrified. The Birdman, who seemed to be waiting for him, places a hand protective on his head. Fear not, he starts, for the quiet ones are always underestimated. Which leaves Shinso, who is bobbing sleepily towards the door, and Bakugo. Bakugu looks as All Might, who is heading after the others. Have I, Bakugu starts, feeling unsure of himself, met you somewhere? All Might turns, a look of surprise flitting across his face. No, I don't think so. Unless it was on TV. He says assuredly. Yeah, but Bakugu trails off. He can't exactly place the familiar feeling, but he feels like he's met All Might before. He's sure of it. Never mind. Bakugu shuffles out the door, but stops when All Might places a huge hand on his shoulder. Young Bakugu, this isn't a death match. Stop looking so gloomy. You're here to learn, right? Typical teacher behavior. I guess. Bakugu grumbles, a sinking feeling in his stomach that this was going to go horribly wrong. Something that Bakugu hadn't estimated. Grenade gauntlets are heavy. His arms strain with the weight of the cumbersome gauntlets as he walks out of the changing rooms onto the training ground. He takes note of everyone else's costumes, some ranging from cool, earjack lady looked badass as hell, to stupid, okay grape. Boy, why would you put a diaper on your costume? To anything in between. Ponytail please, no one wants to see your melons, stop showing off so much skin. You all look great. All Might exclaims when he sees them. Bakugu is about 99% sure he's just saying that because he has two, because every time he looks at Grape Boy, it looks as if he's suppressing a smirk. Nice outfit. Bakugu turns to see the ever-present Shinso dressed in what simply looks like a hoodie and sweatpants with knee and arm guards, an ace bandage scarf along with some kind of dot mouth guard. Bakugu isn't really sure what it is, smirking at the other classmates. Does Kirishima really need to show off that much? Not all of us can have rippling pectorals, you know. Shinso mumbles. Bakugu looks for where his gaze is pointed at, and sees the red spiky guy, wearing what looks like just pants. Shinso was right, he is buff as hell, and who was evidently chatting with Pikachu and Alien Girl. So, like, are we going to get expelled like Toru if we fail? Says Frog, speaking what was on everyone's mind. No, you won't. All Might replies, to a massive sigh of relief. I know that Aizawa can be a little stressful. We're speaking to him about that. Now then, All Might addresses the class in his booming, business-like tone, and everyone stands up a bit straighter. Here are your teams. The board above them flashes with their names, next to someone else's. Bakugu is paired up with someone named Ida Tenya. Why does that sound so familiar? Hello. A guy in full-body knight armor strolls up to him. Bakugu takes note of the engines sprouting out of his legs, and his mind instantly makes the connection. Oh, are you related to Ingenium? Ida sighs, like he's used to the question. Yes, he is my older brother. I'm Ida Tenya, though I suppose you already knew that. He sticks out his hand and Bakugu shakes it reluctantly. Bakugu Katsuki. Hi. Then, All Might pulls out a ballot box. Now, we'll draw to see what teams will go up against each other. He exclaims. Bakugu holds his breath in anticipation. Team A against Team D. Lucky me. I get to go first. Apparently on the other team is Uraraka Achoko, the girl who flung the ball into the sun, and Kuji Kuda, Bird Dude's friend who doesn't say much. They don't look like too much of a threat, so Bakugu thinks it'll be a breeze. When he and Ida get up to the floor where their fake nuke is located, Ida turns, wanting to make every second of their 2-minute head start count. What is the plan? Is a dash plan. What was the plan? Oh yeah, beat the snot out of the other two. I'm going to fight them. Bakugu turns to the exit. Don't get in my way. But not head on. You hardly know anything about their quirks, isn't that a little brash? Yeah, Bakugu starts, turning back to face Ida's metal mask, but brash is kinda my thing. Stay here and guard the bomb. It takes only 5 minutes for Bakugu to find Kuda. He's sitting in a hallway, a small bird perched on his shoulder. In another circumstance, Bakugu might have found the scene cute, but right now he's too focused on winning. Alright, Snow White, listen up. Kuda looks up, face flushing. You have two options. Get out of here and give up now, or I'll beat the living sheet out of you. Bakugu's palms crackle mechanically, to emphasize his point. 30 seconds. Make your choice. Kuda stands up. He looks thoroughly terrified, but he positions himself into a fighting stance. Alright, option 2 it is. Bakugo lunges forwards, palms blazing. A storm of birds shoot through the vents and their sharp talons latch onto Bakugo's arms. Bakugo twists, yelling, and lets off an explosion, but it doesn't deter the birds one bit. They slowly start dragging him up towards the vents, and Bakugo wails in rage. Kuda! Kuda serenely waves goodbye as Bakugo is dragged through the vents, outside, and into the air. By the time that he gets loose, Team D has already won. Nice job, bird boy. Pikachu remarks as Bakugo storms back into the control room, covered in scratches, fuming. Shut up or I'll rip your ball off and stuff them down your eye sockets, Bakugo retorts, but it lacks any real bite. He's too busy being ashamed at being beaten by Kuda that his brain doesn't realize Ida is lecturing him until he's tapped on the shoulder. Bakugo, are you listening? Ida says loudly. Bakugo flinches. What yeah? That was a very irresponsible and impulsive thing to do. On the field of battle, where you don't know anyone else's quirks, teamwork is important. You have to stay together. I was defenseless without you because Uraraka's quirk left me in a vulnerable position. You must always look after you teammates. Ida goes on like this for some time, the other matchup being drowned out by Ida's insistent lecturing. When he's finally done, panting for breath, how often does that guy need to breathe? Did he even take a breath during that whole spiel? Bakugo isn't listening. Instead, he's looking at Kuda, who looks thoroughly mortified that he was the cause of this whole chain of events. Bakugo gets up, ignoring Ida's hand chops in his direction, and walks over to Kuda. Kuda flinches when Bakugo gets over to him. He looks like he's prepared for yelling, or a rematch, which is what Bakugo wants to do. But a smaller part of his brain takes over. He places a hand on Kuda's shoulder. You fought well, he says, voice gravelly. Good job. Kuda looks shocked for a minute, then his face flushes a bright red from the compliment. He signs a quick thank you, which Bird Dude translates, and goes back to scrolling through Pint Rest. After the day is over, All Might addresses them with a speech. You all fought well today. I can see you have areas to improve on Dash. Okay, he's definitely eyeballing him Dash. But overall, I think you are all well suited to the hero course. Congratulations. Shinso, Bakugo, and Kuda all end up walking to the bus together. Bird Dude, whose name is Tokoyami, would have joined them, but he had to stay after school for some extracurriculars. Kuda doesn't say much, and neither does Bakugo, so Shinso ends up doing most of the talking, mostly ranting about photography and how cool Kuda's quirk is. You would, like, sneak a horde of bugs into your enemy's house or something Dash. He stops at the horrified look on Kuda's face. What's wrong? Kuda signs something quickly, and Shinso translates to Bakugo. He doesn't like bugs, he explains. Ah. Bakugo replies. I can't blame you. Bugs are creepy little fuckers. That gets a smile out of Kuda, and Bakugo feels a flush of happiness in his chest. Shinso gets on the bus and Kuda walks home in another direction. It's just Bakugo again. He stops by the fort one more time. He's not quite sure what he wants to do there, but he just wants to see it one more time. He thinks of Midoriya. How happy he'd be to see him actually getting along with others. Sorry. Bakugo mumbles to the silence of the fort, his voice wobbly. So sorry. Bakugo is a grade A idiot. It's a fact he already knew with being dragged out of an exercise by birds, or getting the sheet beaten out of him by Shinso, but this is his second biggest fail. Why are you getting up so early? His mom asks nonchalantly when he dashed out of the door, still pulling his jacket on. It's Aunt Inko's birthday, I am getting her something Dash, he huffs. Oh yeah, that is today. His dad mumbles into his newspaper. What are you getting? No idea, gotta go. Bakugo slams the door behind him and makes a mad dash for the train. He misses it. He probably should have known, considering that he had about 5 minutes to get to the station, but part of him was thinking, you can totally do this. He couldn't totally do it. Bakugo kicks a rock in frustration, watching it sail through the air and smack into the side of a building. Now he would have to wait a whooping 10 minutes for another train. It wasn't too long, but still. He wants to get her something and give it to her before lunch. And now that looks like it's not happening. Bakugu. Bakugu turns to see a confused Kirishima in a red windbreaker, sitting on a bench a few pillars down. Oh, it's you. Bakugu mutters. Not really the guy he was hoping to see. Kirishima is nice, but constantly overflowing with positive energy. Not only does his presence tire Bakugu out, it also reminds him of, "You live around here?" Kirishima asks, and motions for Bakugu to sit down. He sighs. Not like he has a choice. "What's it to you?" He growls, keeping his expression guarded. Kirishima laughs. "I was just wondering, I work down here at a soup kitchen. At this ungodly hour?" Bakugu asks. Kirishima laughs again, laugh full of sun and happiness, and not a trace of derision at all. Bakugu looks away, because talking to Kirishima is like staring at the sun. He doesn't want to go blind. "Well, it's only for a few hours," he says, shark teeth curved in a smile. "The kitchens are open 24/7, but it's kind of understaffed. I try and help out as much as I can even if it means getting up earlier." "Whatever." Bakuga grumbles, knowing that Kirishima's probably just faking all the niceness to backstab him later. That's how people were. "Hey, Ivy, got a quicker way to get back to my place, and it looks like you're heading in that direction too," he says, face brightening up like a light bulb just went off in his brain. "You want me to take you over there?" Bakugu frowns. He doesn't want to run off with this weirdo, but if it means getting to where he needs to go quicker. It takes Kirishima 4 minutes and a quick conversation with someone at a spare vehicle store for him to come back out with a motorcycle. Bakuga blinks. "You've got a motorcycle?" he says, disbelief pacing his tone. Motorcycles were for badasses. Kirishima seemed too nice to be badass. "No, it's Taruki's. But he lets me borrow it from time to time. He works at the soup kitchen too, and we're good friends." Bakugu nods, not really listening. Kirishima hands him a helmet, and Bakugu straps it on. "Hey Spiky, don't you need one?" he asks, as they board the motorcycle. Bakugu's arms circles tightly under Kirishima's armpits. "Nah, I'm fine. I can just use my quirk." And with no warning at all, Kirishima shoots off into the highway, Bakugu yelling bloody murder behind him. It's really nice, actually, the harsh wind whipping away any thought that Bakugu has. The houses blur into a watercolor picture of gray and orange, and the car lights highlight the entire scene. Bakugu almost felt at ease when something strikes him. "Kirishima." Bakugu hells. The redhead turns his head, spikes smacking into Bakugu's face. "Yeah." He yells back. "Do you have a license?" "What?" "Do you have license for the motorcycle? Don't concern yourself with such small details." Ignoring Bakugu's terrified splutters, Kirishima speeds up and rockets down the highway. "Let me get this straight, Bakugu pants out, once they had parked at a small shopping mall. "You don't have a license." What the cops don't know won't kill them." Kirishima shrugs, in a very un-Kirishima-like way. It seems like Bakugu has completely misread the guy. "Sue, I assume you're going here?" Kirishima says, pointing to the mall. Bakugu nods curtly. "Thanks for the ride, Spiky." He strides off towards the entrance, but is stopped by a hand grabbing his arm. "I need to do some shopping too. Wanna go together?" Bakugu snorts, rolling his eyes. "No thanks," he says. "I prefer to shop on my own." "Come on, how are you going to get back home?" "And I'm lonely," he whines, flopping over on the motorcycle seat. "Pleasey." "Fine, whatever." Bakuga grumbles, but is kind of appreciative when Kirishima jumps up like an excited dog, almost like he's glad to be with him or something. Which is stupid. They hardly even know each other. "Who are you shopping for?" Kirishima asks, once they buy a coffee from a small shop in the back. "My aunt." Bakuga mumbles, a little embarrassed. It's kind of a childish reason, and the way he says it sounds stupid. "That's so sweet." Kirishima exclaims, earning another big eye roll from Bakugu. "What's she like?" "Nice." He replies tersely, and doesn't elaborate on it. They pass a few more stores, when Kirishima points to a small store in the corner, tucked between a UNQL and a GameStop. "Look." Bakugu squints at the window, and sees an expensive-looking embroidery kit in the window of a shop titled Strings and Things. Bakugo has no idea if Inko likes sewing or not. He doesn't want to risk it, but he also doesn't want to discredit Kirishima's observation. That looks a little too expensive. Bakugo mutters. Kirishima shrugs. I can pay for it, he says, and Bakugo's head shoots up. Really? Truth is, expensives were kind of a big problem. He didn't have much money on him to begin with. Yeah. It's not a big deal. It is, actually, but Bakugo doesn't want to be weird about it, so he tries to play it off as nonchalantly as possible. Thanks, I guess. He mumbles. Kirishima sees right through him and laughs. No problem. It's what friends do, right? Friends? Since when were he and Spiky friends? I mean Kirishima stammers, looking a little embarrassed. If you want. No, Bakugo says before he can think about it, that's fine. I was just in disbelief that you'd want to be friends with a walking dumpster fire such as myself? Surprised, I guess. Oh. Kirishima's eyes flit back up to Bakugo's face, a happy expression spreading onto his face. Cool sauce. We're not gonna be friends if you say dumb shit like, cool sauce, though, got it? Kirishima laughs. Got it, he says, flashing the thumbs up. Katsuki, how did you know I did embroidery? Inko exclaims, flustered. Lucky guess, I suppose. He mumbles, embarrassed, looking down at the linoleum carpet. Being in Inko's house felt weird. Like he was disturbing a sacred temple or something. This looks expensive, you really didn't have to get this, she says, looking at the fine metal needles. Bakugo fumbles with his hands. A friend actually paid for it. He mutters. Inko looks up. You have a friend? Bakugo looks back flabbergasted. Inko flushes, realizing what she just said was a little rude. I didn't mean it like that, I just remember you saying once that friends are a waste of time. Bakugo smirks sadly at his old behavior. Well, people change their minds. He says. Tell me all about him. Inko smiles. And Bakugo does. A big exercise was something Bakugo had kind of expected to pop up at some point. It was UA after all. They couldn't keep them cooped up in a class forever. Still, the thought did nothing to ease the concern that is bubbling in his stomach. He'd never actually gone up head to head with anyone who's really on par with him. Except for Kuda, but that was a fluke. He underestimated him, something that Bakugo now knew never to do again. The bus is filled with yammering and loud ruckus. Bakugo's mood mirrors Aizawa's current facial expression, which is one of a huge migraine. Your uncle is kind of a sourpuss. The pink-haired alien, Mina Ashiso, Bakugo recalls, remarks. Shinso shrugs. It runs in the family. He replies nonchalantly, fiddling with the ace bandage scarf he is wearing, that mirrors Aizawa. I've been meaning to ask, Kuda signs. How does that scarf work? Shinso, delighted at the prospect of knowing something the others don't, quickly dives into an explanation. Bakugo tunes him out, too busy staring out the window and looking at the scenery. How far away are they from the city? It seems like they've been traveling for hours. You know, for someone with an explosion quirk, you're not a very explosive guy. The loud drawling tone of the blonde Kang jolts Bakugo out of his stupor, and he turns to see Kaminari looking at him, along with the flat-faced one-tape dude. He's got no idea, Bakugo hasn't really talked to him. Yeah, Karo. The frog girl, Tsuno, he thinks, replies. You're kind of quiet. Bakugo has absolutely no idea how to respond to this. Is it a compliment? An insult? I guess so. He mumbles. Soy sauce flathead smirks a little at that. You know, you might be giving Tokoyami a run for his money for the class resident edgy loner. Have you even talked to anyone yet? Bakugo slumps a little in his seat. He has, but at the same time, it's become increasingly harder to try and talk to people, as before these past few months, the only thing he's ever really done is shout at others, so to unlearn an entire life's worth of horrid communication skills is kind of hard to do. Shinso glares at the two boys, and they both shrink a little at his glare. Lay off, asshats. He deadpants. Just because we're not all loud like you doesn't mean we're weirdos. Stop being a judgmental Jerry, Kuda finishes. Kaminari and Tape, who can't read sign language, look confused, while Bakugu and Shinso laugh a little. Exactly. Thank you, Kuda. Kuda flashes a thumbs up. Shinso is right. Ida butts in. We may not know much about Bakugu, but he wouldn't be in the hero course if he weren't a good person. Good person? So, apologize. Kaminari looks sheepish. We weren't trying to be mean, we were just pointing that out dash. That's called an inside thought, Karo. The whole bus laughs at Tsuyuno Frog's statement. The boys blush. Sorry, Bakugu. They mumble. Bakugu flashes them a thumbs up. It's cool. Don't worry about it. Bakugu replies. The boys look relieved at being off the hook, at least until the bus jolts to a stop and the duo falls over. Alright, everyone out. Aizawa mumbles. We've got a lot of stuff to get through today, so hurry up. If you get left behind, we're not coming back for you. Sourpuss. Ashido sing-songs. The facility is called the USJ Unforeseen Simulation Joint. It's run by a hero called 13, who Bakugu hasn't heard much of until now. The arena is divided up into a few areas, like a lake, a city, a forest, and a variety of other things that can change on random, according to Aizawa, who looks as if he's given this speech a million times before. The whole class is in a state of awe, at least until Kaminari breaks the silence by saying, I thought USJ stood for Universal Studios Japan. The whole class bursts out laughing, even Bakugu can't suppress a smile. Then he notices Aizawa's grave face. Did you take the joke that badly? Lighten up dash. Shinso stops to see what Aizawa's staring at. A huge portal has opened up at the center of the arena. The ominous swirling black mist sends the smell of ozone up to the top of the stairs, and the loud, high-pitched whirring shuts everyone up. What's going on? Uraraka asks quietly. Is this part of the exercise? No, Aizawa's voice is grace. Villains. The whole class looks taken aback. Kuda hands are shaking, Bakugu notices, and he reluctantly grabs it. Kirishima pulls it together first, moving into a fighting stance. Everyone outside now. The first villain emerged, a huge, hulking beast that only really counted as human on the faintest technicality. Its eyes rolled in its skull, its brain was exposed, and a large beak protruded out of its face, a large tongue drooping ominously. It might have been kind of comical if its expression wasn't so murderous. Then, more human-looking villains begin to pour out of the black hole portal, each with various features, but all expressions the same, twisted in. Various forms of hate. Then the last two stepped out. The first one is a guy, small and scrawny, wearing no special armor. Instead, he has severed hands adorned all over himself, the largest and most rotten clutching onto his face. The second one lacks any facial features whatsoever, his entire body mass seemingly made out of the same black mist the portal was made out of. The minute he steps out, the portal vanishes. Well, I see All Might isn't here. The small one snickers. Shame. Whatever. This will surely get his attention. The tall one stretches his arms out, and Bakugu and the others only have a fraction of a second to think F- before they all tumble down into the black hole portal. The last thing that Bakugu sees is the flaring of engines, and the smell of exhaust gas burning to life, before it all went black, and all feeling in his limbs vanished. It was dark. Everything black and purple. He could feel some sort of swooping sensation in his stomach, the feeling running up his gut and through his mouth. His bones felt out of place, like they were clinking against each other, like the gravity and will keeping him together was gone. Vanished. Swallowed up like he was. Was this it? Had he died? Was this his eternal punishment for killing somebody? He starts to panic, bitter bile seeping into his throat, and feeling his stomach twist again. A familiar pair of hands grabs him from behind. Wake up. A soft voice says. Bakugu. Bakugu bursts out of the fountain, soaking wet and heaving up lungfuls of chlorine-filled water. His heart burns, and he retches a few more times before he can breathe again. Someone's hands are on his shoulder. What had just happened? Where was he? You good dude? Kirishima's concerned eyes peer at him through wide lids. His face is twisted in worry and fear and something else. Bakugo can't really identify what it is. He heaves again, his lungs burning with the phantom pain of almost drowning. Kirishima grabs his waist to steady him. In a knee-jerk reaction, he shoves him away, a familiar scene playing out before him. "Don't touch me, he hisses. Kirishima blanches, face pale with shock. Then, the memories of the past hour flood back into his head, causing him to reel back. "Sorry, Kirishima waves it off. "It's fine. Just glad you're okay. I had seriously thought you drowned or something like that." He turns to survey the area from the baddies. They're laying in some sort of artificial shopping square, the plaster fountain cracked, no doubt from Bakugo's impact. What exactly had happened? He scans his mind, memories fleeting and blurry. The villains in front of us. Black mist. And engine fuel. What did that smoke fucker do? Bakugo growls. "I think that he can teleport people places." Kirishima replies, brushing his hands through his spiky hair. "He split us up, most likely so it'd be easier to dash. Pick us off." Bakugo finishes. Kirishima looks up. "Why yeah?" His tone betrays fear, a slight quiver showing how scared he really was. "What should we do?" he asks, more to himself than Kirishima. "Well, Ida was the only one who escaped the teleportation field. I think he ran to get help." Kirishima looks around again. "And I haven't seen where the others have landed." "Okay, Bakugo says, mind racing with half-formed plans and ideas. "Do you have an idea of where they could have gone?" Kirishima looks thoughtful for a second. "I think someone landed over there," he says, pointing to where a large boat was, sitting in the water sideways. You know how to swim?" Bakugo asks. Kirishima nods. "Good. You go over there and see if you can find anyone. I'm going this way." He turns to leave, but Kirishima stops him, grabbing his arm again. Bakugo flinches at the sudden contact. "We're not splitting up," Kirishima explains, voice cracking. Bakugo stares him down, but he doesn't back off. "What are you even going to do?" "Fight that smoke fucker," he growls. He turns again to leave, but Kirishima holds him back. "You're insane," he shouts. "You'll get yourself killed." Something squirms inside him, a word or a feeling trying to get out. "You think I care?" Bakugo replies, ice in his tone. Kirishima blinks. He takes this silence as an acceptance of defeat and runs the other way. He doesn't care what happens at this point. This is what heroes do, sacrifice themselves. He saw it all the time in the news. Heroes dying. Heroes getting killed saving someone else. The real meaning of heroism was not being afraid, no matter what may happen to you. And Bakugo was determined to uphold the ideals of someone else who couldn't. "Hey!" Kurogyri turns, a cold annoyance bubbling in his gut. He already had so much to do, keeping young Master Tamura under control and making sure everything was going to plan. So far, the only thing that had really gone wrong was the Ingenium spawn getting away, but they could deal with that matter later. No, what was really irking him was this small child in front of him. His hands were clenched, his hair was wet, his fists were smoking, and he had the clear signs of a concussion. Yet, he still stood in front of Kurogyri, as if he actually had a fighting chance. It was almost sad, but also a little funny. "Young boy, why are you Kurogyri was cut off by a blazing fist swinging towards his face, slamming into him and sending him flying in the other direction. Maybe not as weak as he thought. "Katsuki Bakugo," he calmly says, pulling himself off the ground. The boy freezes, looking like a deer trapped in headlights. "Yes, I know who you are," he replies, adjusting his tie. He studies the boy in front of him. Malnourished face, looking as if he'd lost a lot of weight in a short amount of time. What had happened to him? Abuse, possibly? "You are quite the enigma to us," he says, dogging another explosive punch. "We've heard of your quiet demeanor at UA, and yet, it seems you've got quite a track record at other schools for loudmouth behavior." He twists abruptly and swings under the boy, causing him to tumble down and hit his nose. He stands back up, however, undeterred by the fact his nose is bleeding profusely and probably broken. Why the sudden change of heart? Shut up. The passionate answer was not at all what Kurogyari was expecting, and he quickly teleports out of the way of another fiery blast. You think I give a shit about your stupid but mind games? He whirls around and smashes a smoking fist into the rocky platform Kurogyari was standing on. Quickly, tumbles down, breaking into a million pieces, and Kurogyari teleports out of the way again. You do, your strong reaction says so. Kurogyari may not be the best fighter, but his strength lies in manipulation, an ability Sensei had taught him to hone to the finest degree. He's watched policemen and trained heroes crumble before simple words. So a small boy, unskilled in combat or mental gymnastics, being so thoroughly unaffected is peculiar to say the least. This sort of reaction is usually due to guilt-induced trauma. I know that something must have happened. He swerves out of the way of another punch, but rest assured, I know how you're feeling. I expect your parents are awful to you, no? The boy PPS his head, confused. Kurogyari takes this as confirmation and carries on. They must be horrible to you. I know that heroism seems like the best choice, but trust me, you'll just end up killing yourself later. You've already hurt yourself so much against me. Then, to Kurogyari's surprise, he laughs. And laughs. And keeps on laughing. It's the kind of laugh that young master would do when he's angry, or someone's touched a nerve. The kind of laugh that's on the brink of unstoppable laughter, an insane tinge in it. But he doesn't sound crazy. He sounded broken. Do you think I give a shit about what happens to me? He says, unbroken fist curled. Newsflash, I don't. And neither does anybody else. A wicked glint in his eye, he stepped forward one. Kurogyari stepped back, astounded. All I give a DMN about right now is putting a shady fucker like you into the dirt. He says. He swings. Someone grabs his right arm. And the boy is people like you make me sick. Young Master Tamura says, a sneer on his face, watching the boy's arm crumble and bleed into dust. You're so stupid. Young and stupid. Angry and stupid. Stupid. Shut up. The boy yells again, face contorted in pain. He manages one angry crackle, and Kurogyari knows what's going to happen before it does. The boy lunges for Tamura's face. And lets him have it. Ah-ha-yuff. Young Master screams, hand over his left eye, bleeding profusely. You beach, you worm, you skank. The boy smirks, right arm holding young Master's eyeball. A few seconds later, All Might arrives. Shigaraki retreats. And Bakugu's left laying in the dirt, arm bleeding out and sky looking blurry. He smiles, sad, knowing he's probably been left for dead. Gross, Deku, I know. He wheezes. Just as psychotic as before, right? I ripped out his eyeball. Bakugu wheezes a laugh. I ripped out his eyeball, I ripped out his eyeball, I ripped out his eyeball. He continues the mantra before he slips back into tumultuous darkness. But he sees someone above him. And hears yelling. And smells pine trees. Like the fort. Is that where they're taking him? Maybe Izuku's waiting there for him. So Katsuki can apologize. Sorry. He wheezes to the leaves of the fort above him, blurry green and yellow above him. Before he lets the black consume him. The hospital room is very cold, Kirishima notices. Kirishima hates the cold. What he hates the most about it was the fact that it makes his hair stand on end, and he can't stop shivering. He was always very susceptible to the cold. He hates how weak he feels. The entirety of Class 1A is waiting in the waiting room with him, everyone clustered together in little groups. Kuda has been crying silently into Shinsu's shoulder for a while now, never making a single sound, but his shoulders shaking now and then, clearly distressed. Shinso looks on. They were the two closest to Bakugu in the short 3-week PRD that school had been in session. They'd formed a weird trio, a silent but understanding group of friends who found comfort in the other's silence. But now that was gone. Kirishima knew. He knew that the minute the doctor entered the hospital room what he was going to say. Maybe he knew in the hours that everyone had been waiting. Bakugu had died. He died during surgery. He hadn't lost too much blood, But the shock his body sustained was too severe, and the lack of nutrients that his body had made it impossible for his body to handle the strain of the surgery. He had died at 7 p.m. Kirishima had expected it to be louder. But the room was silent, everyone looking somewhere else. No one knew how to take this news. Then the first sob starts. It comes from his mother, a short but imposing woman, leaning onto her husband's shoulder for support, a sound of pure misery issuing from her lips. Then Kuda starts to cry as well, and soon, everyone is. They hardly knew Bakugo very well. Kirishima hardly knew him very well. But he can't help but let this sea of grief and misery overtake him, letting the full knowledge of a short life wasted fall onto his shoulders. Because Bakugo Katsuki was dead. And no amount of grieving would bring him back. This is going to be hell to pay. Aizawa says. The faculty nods. He had called an emergency teacher meeting to discuss security and possible legal repercussions for the USJ incident. A student had died, and UA was under a lot of strain from the press and everyone else. Hero Society was under question. How could the school have let down this boy and his family so badly? Hizashi crosses his arms, furrowing his brows. I'm surprised that the Bakugo household hasn't filed for a lawsuit already. He mumbles in a disparaged tone of voice. As a matter of fact, they have. Nedzu pulls out a file and plops it onto the table, front and center. And they have every right to. We should have done more as an institution. From what I heard from Kirishima Idru, he seemed to have run in all on his own, against your instructions, Aizawa. Midnight corrects. Aizawa nods. It was my fault. All heads swivel to All Might, head bowing in shame. If I was a little faster, I may have been able to save his life. I could have been able to save him from Shigaraki Dash. A fist hits the table. Everyone looks at Aizawa, quirk activated, and fists clenched. We need to find those villains, effective immediately. Aizawa hisses, steel in his tone. Aizawa, we're doing all we can. Nedza sighs. But they seem to be 2 steps ahead of us every time when it comes to their security measures. They're incredibly good at disappearing. Then try harder. Aizawa growls, and Nedza looks taken aback. I haven't slept in 3 days, I just lost one of my best students, and everywhere I turn, the DMed press is there, on my tail, constantly badgering me and taking my silence as vindictive. Satisfaction for the death of my student. The faculty is silent. Aizawa gets a hold of himself and stands. If you'll excuse me, I'm going to go back to doing something useful and track down these monsters. He stands and leaves. Hizashi whistles. The funeral is a quiet affair. It was just 1A, his parents, and a few of his close relatives. No one is entirely sure what to say, a lifetime of encouragement silenced in an instant. Speeches are given. Kuda can't hear any of them, too focused on the what-ifs and maybes. He could have been there. He could have tried harder. The regret pools hot and sticky in his gut. Shinso won't stop staring, the flowers smell too bad, and the room swims. It hurts. You okay? Shinso asks, which is a stupid question because no, of course he's not okay. No one here is. Shinso wraps an arm around his shoulder. Kuda hasn't realized he'd crying until Shinso passes him a tissue. You're going to be okay, he says. Kuda sniffs. What would Bakugo say if he were here right now? Kuda blinks. Stop being a wuss? He shankly replies. He'd say to remember that this doesn't last forever. Remember the time when we went to the mall and got stuck on the train? Kuda does. It was only last Saturday, but it feels like a lifetime ago. After the funeral, Kuda is the last to leave. He doesn't really want to get up. He can't find the energy to. Then, he sees Mrs. Bakugo hunched over on herself. He realizes that he hadn't asked if she was okay. He walks over. His throat seizes up, like it always does around strangers, so instead he signs, "Are you doing okay?" She doesn't look up. "Heroes," he hears her whisper. Koda then notices that her husband is absent. They did all this. Kuda sits down next to her. He hands her a tissue. What did they do? Is. Surprisingly, she responds. First Midoriya, and now my own son? She looks up, eyes red and puffy. I can't accept this. It's too much. Are you filing a lawsuit? He signs. I'm starting a campaign. She replies, running her hand through her hair. To disband Hero Society. I started it with my friend Inko Midoriya. You know what happened to her son. He shakes his head, although the surname Midoriya does ring a bell. He committed suicide over being bullied for his lack of a quirk. He wanted to be a hero so bad. She looks away. Kuda does remember this. It was in the paper. And he relates to Midoriya's plight. He was made fun of for having a useless quirk as well. Is there anything I can do to help? He signs tentatively. Mrs. Bakugo looks at him, surprised. You'll help me? She asks. He nods. And she smiles. It's not a happy smile. It's a determined smile. Thank you. She says quietly. Kuda nods. Always. He responds quietly. Ijiro. Kirishima doesn't respond. He curls up tighter. It's me. His mother sounds concerned. Maybe he should let her in. What was the point? She'd just see how much of a screw-up he was. Hey dude. She say quietly, slipping inside his room. You doing okay? He shifts under the covers. What is he supposed to say? You think I care? Not really. He mumbles, voice rough from lack of use. His mother sits down on the bed and rubs his back, like she used to do when he was younger. Do you want to talk about it? She asks quietly. He shakes his head under the covers. But I'm not leaving. She doesn't get up, and Kirishima knows she means it. So they sit. In silence. I think you handled everything very maturely. His mother comments. Kirishima sticks his head out from under the covers, unstyled hair drooping into his face. I don't think so. He mutters. His mother sighs. I think you should get out of bed. She says. Kirishima agrees, but he can't seem to find the effort to do so. Come on. She yanks the covers off him, and he curls up at the feeling of cold air. It's either you get up or stay like this forever. That hits him harder than any punch. Kuda's alone in the restaurant, a half-finished pastry in front of him. He loves this place. Normally he loves how quiet and empty the place is, along with the desserts. But it doesn't taste as good today. Maybe it's because of loss. Or what Mrs. Bakugo said. Or maybe it's because he's reflecting on his inadequacies. But he's sad. And not the normal kind of sad. A deep, bitter sad that doesn't go away for a long, long time. The last time he felt like this was when his grandmother died. But she had a long, good life. Seeing someone's life ripped away so young? It was even worse. Something catches the corner of his eye, a small flutter of movement causing him to jump. It's a dragonfly. It lands on the small plant by the door. Kuda hates insects. He hates how tiny and creepy-crawly they are. Even butterflies freak him out a little. But today, he's not scared anymore. He says quietly. The dragonfly turns. Or you. It replies. Stomper? Stompers are what bugs call humans. It's an accurate description. No, Kuda replies. Friend. Stomper? The dragonfly buzzes a little in confusion. Friend. He keeps repeating that until the dragonfly listens and lands on his nose. It's a nice, tickly sensation. And for a second he can't remember why he was afraid anymore. For once, the old BS lets him stay home while he's on a patrol. He's got that much common courtesy, at least. Todoroki shouldn't feel sad. He never liked Bakugo anyways. But it wasn't fair. His father didn't really care. To him, it was another rival out of the way, though he'd never say that out loud, of course. But Todoroki knows him well enough to know what he's thinking. Another rival gone. Another way clear. When was it going to be enough for him? Todoroki paces, thoughts running in a hate-filled circle. I'm not him, he should know that. Do I even have feelings to him? I'm not a doll. I'm not an instrument to success. He doesn't know that. He doesn't care. More and more worries and anger pile up on him, until this mound of hurt, anger, misery falls away, leaving one clear path before him. He didn't care that someone died. He won't care when I die either. I have to leave. As if life couldn't get any worse. Shinso was busy eating cereal when a familiar face turns up missing on the news. It's Todoroki, one of the kids in 1A. He never really talked much or interacted, but still. It's distressing, especially after. Shinso takes a big bite of cereal to get himself to shut up. He watches eagerly. While we don't know what happened to young Todoroki, it's been theorized that the League of Villains took him as another blow to UA after the unfortunate death of Bakugo Katsuki. The scene switches to one of a furious Endeavor on a patrol, shooing away reporters. Endeavor is very upset and refuses to comment. No sheet. Shinso mutters. But he is working tirelessly to find and bring his son home. Todoroki, if you can dash. Shinso shuts the TV off, too angry to watch any further. Treating this as a triviality. No wonder Hero Society esikes. Shinso stands and goes back to his room, missing the flash of white and red that blurs by his window, jumping over the rooftops. Escaping. In hindsight, maybe Todoroki should have brought some warmer clothes. The temperature has become very cold at night, which makes traveling at night a painful experience, despite it being prime running time. Unfortunately for him, his face is all over the news, police and heroes looking everywhere for him. The key detail is to hide in places they had already looked. They tend not to look in the same place twice. So that's why he's now huddled up on an abandoned fire escape of some decrepit building. A pitiful fire started up using some old newspapers and an empty carton of milk sputtering in front of him. The smoke makes his scar sting. He's just a child, NG. He's old enough, woman, now get out of the way. I won't let you do this again. What about 2 dash? A loud slap. A harsh thud. The icy chill on the right side of his body is even more prominent than before. It's gone past the line of being moderately annoying to, oh God, please make it stop. He could probably make a huge fire with his quirk. But the panic and anger that he'll inevitably feel after using it isn't worth it, in Todoroki's eyes. It had been a long couple of days, but very short at the same time. To distract himself from the numbing cold, Todoroki reviews his escape options. The buses are out of the question. Since he's very recognizable, any hack with an access to cable will spot him on sight. And he can't go into a store and buy himself a disguise either, because people there will recognize him too. The rooftops by night seem like his best bet. If there's one good thing he's learned at UA, it's how to be fast. Aizawa taught him how to do some real handy evasive maneuvers. However, the bitter cold is definitely a problem. He'd been traveling for about 10 minutes when the cold finally caught up to him, and he had to stop. Your quirk is ice. Why do you get affected by the cold so easily? The pause. I dunno, Fuyumi, I guess that's just the way it is. Maybe it makes you more sensitive to the temperature? I mean, last summer you hardly went outside because it was too hot. Laughter. Okay, you two, let's get inside. Motherly hands, grabbing arms. Back inside the house, where it's warm. The weak fire flickers and dies. Todoroki sighs. He'll have to start another one. The first one took him a long time to get to work. And he dropped his lighter somewhere, where dash. Hey there. A low, gravelly voice. A man with dark, blackish-green hair drags himself out of the shadows, movements slow and sluggish. He's clearly on something. I knew you. He drawls, shakily pointing at Todoroki. Weren't you on the news? Todoroki blanches. I don't think so. He replies, pulling himself out of his crisscross position to run if necessary. So you say. The man stumbles closer, expression malevolent. I think you've got an award on your head? Reward, idiot. Hope it didn't specify alive. The man takes a deep breath and exhales, a hot blast of heat torrenting towards Todoroki at colossal speed. Todoroki can only freeze like a deer in headlights as the blunt force of the memories shoot up to dance in front of his eyes. Get up. This is nothing compared to what you'll have to deal with each day of your life as a hero. Pathetic. Too hot. Searing hands on his arms and face. Cold voice keeping him awake at night. Kettle. Screewa. And the harsh trill of an overflowing tea kettle is replaced with the sound of a man screaming as something sharp is jabbed into his back. Another man has crept up behind him, dressed in a strange outfit, sort of resembling a ninja. He wears a mask over his eyes, with the ends flowing out behind him. His hair is dark and wild, and he has an unsheathed katana strapped to his back. The strung-out man doesn't even get any time to react. The ninja man, with one swift twirl of his arms, slices the man in half, torso still flailing with what little consciousness the man has left. Todoroki closes his eyes, but can still hear the wet slap of meat and bone hitting the concrete. He holds his breath for a few more seconds, praying that his death will be mercifully painless. But no sharp, jabbing pain comes. Todoroki opens one eye. The ninja man is looking over at the man's body, decrepit and mutilated as it may be. Human filth. He grunts. He gives the man's legs a firm kick. They tumble down and join the torso on the floor. Todoroki blinks, drawing himself into a defensive stance. Who? Ardesh, his mind clicks. This is the hero killer. The hero killer Stain. Kirishima meets up with Momo at the cat cafe at 6. The cafe is called Whiskers and Whiskey, not that they were old enough to drink. But while it was expensive, Momo had enough money to pay for it. How have you been? She asks. He shrugs. Okay. She picks up one of the cats sitting on one of the beanbag chairs and places him on her lap. His name tag reads, Christopher Creampuff. Why'd you call me here? Momo doesn't reply. You seem affected the worst by all of this. She responds quickly, face downturned, so he can't read her expression. Mina said when she came to see you, you wouldn't come out of your room. This was one of the few times he'd left the house in the past few days. The people and noise was, and still is, slightly overwhelming. I wanted to make sure you were doing okay. Momo scratches her head, looking sheepish, and takes a long sip of her iced tea. Kirishima sighs. Thanks. He mumbles, picking up a tabby and putting her on his lap. She gets up a few minutes later and gives him a look as if to say, Really, dude? I guess, at the USJ? I was talking to him, and before he went off to go face the shadow guy, I told him he could die. And he said he didn't care. Momo blinks, looking shocked. And I knew right then that something wasn't okay? Like, something was wrong with him. Something had happened with him. But by then it was too late. Oh, Momo says softly. Kirishima clenches his fists, biting back. Oh, Kirishima, I'm so sorry. Christopher Creampuff gets up on the table, saunters forward, and seats himself on Kirishima's lap. Momo gets up as well and gives him a hug. I wish there was something I could have done. He mutters. Momo nods. A cat cafe is probably not an appropriate place to have a good cry. Those kinds of things had never stopped Kirishima before. Todoroki's glad that no one's usually at the bus stop. Less chance of being caught. Come to think of it, no one really uses the buses at all. Everyone usually rides the train to and from where they need to go. The only people who really use the buses are tourists. So now it's just him and a poor-looking man on a bus. Todoroki seats himself as far away from him as possible, his encounter with the fire-breathing man who almost killed him still fresh in his mind. Not to mention the other man who had showed up. You're the hero killer. Todoroki mumbles. The myth Stain turns to face him. And you're the spawn of Endeavor on the news. He replies in a gruff tone of voice. Isn't your daddy missing you at home right now? His blood boils. That man, he is not my father. Todoroki growls. Stain gives him an inquisitive look. You throwing a teenage tantrum? Todoroki blinks. Want to be independent from him because of a stupid reason like disagreeing with him? That's why you left. Stain says, sheathing his katana. It's not Dash. Go home, kid. Stain says, turning away to face him. Whether or not you like your dad is irrelevant. He may be foul, but you're less likely to freeze to death in there than out here. He jumps to another fire escape and swings to the top of a roof. Go home. He says again. This isn't a place for children. What did he know? Stain was just a pompous man with broken ideals who knew how to wield a sword. Why should the opinion of a serial killer bother him? He doesn't even know you. The bus lurches to a stop. It's in Mephasto. Mephasto Prefecture, Mephasto Prefecture. The bus driver drones. Todoroki blinks. Last call from Mufastu Prefecture. The hobo gets off the bus. Todoroki considers it as well. You could go home. Go home and be warm and have food. Go to a nice school. Beat people in the sports festival. Be a hero. But that's not your life, is it? The thought enters his mind as quickly as it leaves. Todoroki blinks. That's his life. Not yours. Almost like someone was whispering in his ear. What do you want to do? Todoroki sits back down and watches the door to the bus close. He wants to be someone else. Someone not affiliated with his father. But first, he's got a serial killer to find. For someone who couldn't keep his locker organized if he wanted to, Bakugu's house is pretty neat, Kuda notices. It's probably because his mother cleaned it up, but still. It doesn't really feel like his house. Mrs. Bakugu, I told you to just call me Mitsuki, had invited him over for tea, just to get to know him better. Like Bakugu, she's got a strange aura around her, but one that makes him feel at ease. It's familiar. Like the embrace of someone he lost a long time ago. They discuss the campaign and how it started to gain some traction. They talk of school, how it is, and how Kuda is doing. The subject of Bakugu never comes up. Then the phone rings. Mrs. Bakugu makes a move to go get it, but not before Kuda asks, "Where's the bathroom?" "Down the hall." She replies airily, before picking up the phone and yelling into it, presumably at her husband. They don't seem to talk much. The problem with those directions is that there are 2 doors in the hallway, both closed. Kuda doesn't know which one is the bathroom and which one isn't. He tried the one on the right. He's guessed wrong because he opens to a bedroom, everything with a fine layer of dust over it. It's Bakugu's. Kuda wants to close the door, leave this painful reminder behind him, but his curiosity gets the better of him. He walks in, closing the door behind him. Like the rest of the house, it's rather tidy and sparse, with not too much going on. There's a calendar hanging on one of the walls, the last marked off day being the day before the USJ attack. Kuda looks away, diverting his attention to the wrinkled bedspread. There's a few things laying around the bed, earbuds, a computer, but one thing under the bed sticks out to him. It's a little notebook, school graph. It looks well worn, a few tears at the corner. It's labeled, #Kuda frowns, and picks it up. Why is it called that? Were there 13 other notebooks before this one? Kuda. Mrs. Bakugu's voice issues from the end of the hall. You doing all right? Yeah. He shouts, impulsively stuffing the notebook in his hoodie's pocket. I'm coming. He takes one last look at Bakugu's room before closing the door. Stain scowls at the hero laying out before him, grasping his injured leg, whimpering. It's the hero Blue Bullet, with a quirk that can manipulate the water in the air to her will. He frowns. She was just another one of the fakers. He raises his katana to strike the killing blow. And a pillar of ice stops him, encasing his arms, his legs, until only his head is sticking out. A figure stands at the end of the alley. His hair is dyed an obviously fake shade of black, covered by a beanie. He's wearing an oversized army jacket, and his scar is covered by bandages across his eye. But the sharp nose is unmistakable. And so is that icy blue eye, filled with contempt. You. Stain growls. The Todoroki spawn doesn't look at him. Can you still walk? He asks the hero. She nods. Go, run to the police station. She agrees, hobbling out of the alley, away from the scene. Child, you don't know who you are messing with. Stain says evenly. The Todoroki spawn still doesn't look at him. Free me. Stain says again, letting all the cold in his heart seep into his tone. The boy looks at him, an icy fury in his face. No, he replies, picking up his katana and breaking it over his leg. Stain paled. His father gave him that katana. Why not? He growls again. The boy looks at him. You're a serial killer. If I let you go, you'll kill me. He says as if it's the most obvious thing in the world. Stain gives him a look. If I wanted to kill you, you'd have died that night I saved you. I didn't need your help. The boy shoots back, crossing his arms. Please, you were frozen in fear. Stain shoots back. He would have fried you to a crisp if you hadn't moved. The boy looks like he wants to object, but looks away. Free me. No. If you don't, when I get out of here, I'll hunt you down and flay you alive. I don't care. The amount of hollowness in the boy's words strikes a chord in Stain's heart, one he had longed sealed away. He recognizes that tone. It was the tone that robbed men of their lives, their wills to live, their souls. A child should never speak with that hollowness. He thinks back to what the boy said about his father, and realizes that this might be more than simple teenage rebellion. What did your father do to you to make you leave? Stain says simply. The boy looks at him. I'm being serious, Stain replied. I want to know. Why should I tell you? You're going to kill me anyways. The boy says. Stain shakes his head, or as best he can with his neck encased in ice. I won't. At least if you don't piss me off. The boy sighs. He wanted me to surpass all might, he confesses. I was a tool for his success, nothing more to him. All I did was train, until I passed out or threw up or something equally bad. Arms crossed, the boy stares him right in the face. Happy? Stain isn't that surprised. There had been rumors of how his son got the scar he had, involving some not-so-great parenting on Endeavor's part. He's a monster. Stain says finally. Agreed. Todoroki mumbles. But that's no reason to kill him, or any other hero. Why not? Stain retorts. Don't you want your vengeance? I learned a long time ago that vengeance just leads to more suffering, the boy says coldly. And I think I've suffered enough. Stain smirks. Well spoken. He replies. The boy waves his hand, and the ice around Stain melts in a pile of steam. Stain stares at the boy, back now turned to him. There, he says, tone neutral. Now you don't have an excuse to flay me alive or whatever you said you were going to do. Before Stain can say anything else, the boy runs out of the alley, as fast as his feet can go. Stain stares at the spot where he once was for a long time. He shakes his head. He's probably going to get himself killed in the streets. He thought to himself. He turns to jump back onto the roof, when a thought, like a small whisper, enters his mind. So make sure he doesn't. Stain stops. Thinks about it. It'd be a waste of time. He growls to himself, rolls his eyes at his own foolishness, and goes in the direction of where the boy went. Going back to school felt weird. The school looks exactly the same to Shinso, but at the same time, it doesn't. Smaller. Darker. Like the glimmer from the glass had vanished. Shinso doesn't really want to go back to class. It doesn't feel right. And he's not alone in this. Kuda's up and opted out of class today, and in the obligatory class group chat, a few people mentioned not going to school. Hagakure, despite being expelled, was still on the chat and told everyone how sorry she was. Shinso replied she was lucky. She missed everything that had happened. When he steps into the classroom, the first thing he notices is an empty desk in the back of the classroom, second to last in the back row. His desk is seated right behind it. Shinso slowly walks over, repeating a mantra he'd thought of, keeping the bottle of emptiness and grief locked and hidden, ignoring the knot in his throat. It's just a desk. It's just a desk. There's no reason to feel bad when you look at it. Someone touches his arm. It's the girl with the brown-haired bob, eyes filled with understanding and concern. You doing okay? She asks. Shinso opens his mouth to reaffirm her that everything is all right, he's fine. No sound comes out. He opens his mouth again, closes it and slowly shakes his head. The girl, Uraraka, if his memory serves him right, sighs in silent understanding. She gives him a hug. Shinsu's not one for physical contact. The only people that are really allowed to touch him are his close friends, people he's known for a long time. But today he sort of needs this. So he hugs back, silently. The two of them stay like that, quiet understanding of the other's pain. Uraraka was full of compassion for everyone around her, that Shinso could tell just by looking. And when they part, it's no different, eyes filled with a deep sadness for someone she didn't even know that well. She nods. He nods back. Uraraka goes back to her seat, Shinso to his. And he tries his DMN hardest not to think about the empty desk in front of him. Okay, Aizawa looks more tired than usual, Shinso notices. I hate to break this to you, but despite all that's happened, the The school still thinks it's acceptable to hold its annual sports festival. Silence in the classroom. No one looks excited, nervous, anything. Slowly, Momo raises her hand. Aizawa calls on her. After everything that's occurred, is this really a good idea? She mumbles. A few people sitting around her nod. No, I don't. Aizawa says, putting emphasis on the I. But I'm just a lowly teacher, my opinions have no say in the matter. Everyone lets out a collective sigh. And on another note, one of our students, Todoroki Shuto, has gone missing. Everyone looks at the empty desk in the middle of the room. Another empty desk. The police are working to track him down as we speak, but if any of you have any information on where he could have gone, I need you to step forward now. No one does. I see. Aizawa rubs his temples. Well, if any of you know anything, we'd like to know. But other than that, I don't have anything to say. The class is silent after Aizawa leaves. No one says a word, everyone too lost in their own thoughts. Momo looks down at her phone, the last text she received from Todoroki glaring back at her. Todoroki, I have to leave now. I'm sorry. What are you talking about? Don't hate me. He didn't say anything after that. Kuda lays in his bed, staring up at the ceiling. He'd decided to stay home from school, but now he was sort of regretting that decision, as he now had nothing to distract him from the aching hole in his chest, of loneliness and depressed boredom. What could he do? Kuda could take a walk, but he isn't really feeling up to moving. He could go to the animal shelter, but the dogs wouldn't tell him anything he hasn't heard before. Dogs are very simple creatures. Then he remembers the notebook he stole. Number 14. Kuda rolls out of bed, over to his backpack. He opens the front pocket, and there it is, the beaten-up notebook in all of its glory. Kuda sits back down and stares at it. Should he read it? He wanted to. He wanted to understand his friend better. But at the same time, no one had told him he could. But Kuda huffs, annoyed at himself, and opens it. He soon discovers that it's filled with what looks like journal entries. Kuda hadn't pegged Bakugo for the writing type. But then again, there are a lot of things Kuda doesn't know about him. So he starts to read. 620. I'm not really sure what I should write in here. I don't want to write hero sheet-like. The entry cuts off. Kuda turns to the next page. 125. Okay, fine. You win. I'll write in here. Dr. Sumika said this would be a good coping mechanism, but I'm not really sure how keeping a diary would help me at all. This is confusing. Another page turn. 127. I sort of see what the quack doctor means now. It's good to record what you're feeling. Kinda. My dad said he did something like this when he was in middle school. He also recorded his anxiety level. He said that helps. I don't want to do that. It sounds FING dumb. I'm going to do it anyways, aren't I? I'm an idiot. Anxiety level today, 6 or 7. He curses a lot less in writing than he does in person, Kuda notices. He also seems more vulnerable. Probably because he didn't expect some weird-looking kid to steal it, then read it, did he? 27. I'm taking the UA entrance exams in a few days. I've been training for a long time for this, even though I was a useless lump for like a month. I saw Aunt Inko today. We had a picnic on the beach. It sounds more pleasant than it actually was. AL, 8. Aunt Inko makes me nervous. I don't know why she doesn't hate me. Kuda recalls Mrs. Bakugo mentioning her a few times when he went over for tea. He didn't know that Mrs. Inko and Mrs. Bakugo were related. I'm not really sure why I call Aunt Inko Aunt. We're not even related. Entrance exam is tomorrow. I'm kind of nervous. There's a trashy beach I like to use when I'm angry. Blow up stuff. It's cathartic. Except when hobos intrude or something. Kuda wonders why the last part was crossed out. What's the plural of hobos anyways? Hobos? Hobi? I dunno. I need to sleep, I haven't slept in like 2 days or something. AL, I have no idea, my emotions are all over today. Probably from lack of sleep. That sounded pretty miserable. And Kuda's friends with Shinso. 210. Why'd he do it anyways? And what he said before he was taken away, about me being happy. No, of course I'm not FING happy. I'm the opposite of happy. Was he just trying to spite me, royally F me over? He hated me, I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't. AL, not even gonna bother, there's no point to it. I hate him. There are a few dried wet patches on the paper. Almost like tears. Kuda closes the notebook. He already feels like he's intruding, and these suddenly angry entries make him feel sick. He has questions. Who is this person? And what did he mean about being happy? 218. I got my results back today. I got into UA. I feel like I should be happier than I am. I just feel numb. Met a weirdo on the beach. He had stupid-looking hair, like he stuck a fork in a toaster or something. Fucker. I wonder what UA's like. Hopefully it's as nice as D as it seems to be. Okay, I'm done with you tonight, journal. Go eat some metaphor cheese or something. AL, less than it's been in a while. If Todoroki has to eat one more bag of chips, he's going to lose it. Chips and bad ramen are really the only thing he can afford if he wants to. Save money. B. Not have to sit down for a meal, since there's a big chance someone will recognize him. C. Avoid using his credit card, because his father could probably track it from the location. But his spare change is running out, and he certainly doesn't want to resort to pickpocketing. Todoroki may not be a hero anymore, but he'll keep his ideals, thank you very much. The air has warmed up a little the past few days, making night travel more bearable. He can actually make some good distance instead of running for like 10 minutes, then backing out because he doesn't want to die of frostbite, pneumonia, or some other cold-related illness. Since he was attacked by the fire-breathing man, Todoroki's been careful to watch his back when he's resting. The alleys are dangerous, after all. Patrols with his father have taught him that, if not anything else. But it's his unlucky night as fate would have it. He's sitting in an alley, perched on top of another fire escape, his black hair and clothing letting him blend into the shadows when he hears the sound of wheezy giggling. Every hair on the back of his neck stands up, and he whirls around just in time for a small girl to appear behind him. Her appearance is pretty disheveled, a dirty school uniform hanging loosely on her tiny frame. Her hair is perched up in two very messy buns, her nails are dirty with dried blood, and she basically looks like she's crawled out of a dumpster, which, judging by the area and the time of night, Todoroki wouldn't be surprised if that were the case. But her face is what gets him. Her eyes are a bright shade of gold, a little too bright. In fact, that's the look of someone who's not exactly right in the head. Her mouth is curved upwards in a crooked grin, showing off sharp canine teeth. The first thing Todoroki thinks is vampire. The second thing he thinks is run away from the crazy girl with a pocket knife not so cleverly concealed in her skirt pocket. "Show!" she exclaims, pulling herself off her knees to crawl towards him. "It's you!" Todoroki backs up a good couple feet, hands slipping on the edge of the fire escape. I think you've got the wrong person, dash. The girl's eyes glint, and he realizes that she doesn't care, and he, really needs to go. "I saw you on the news, you look different." Her grubby hand moves to touch his now bandaged scar. Instinctively, Todoroki lurches back, and the trajectory sends him falling off the fire escape, head first. Really, the only thought he can muster is, "Nice job, moron. You finally escaped the old BSRD, only to die of head trauma in a back alley by some crazy chick with a knife who didn't even attack you." Someone catches him. Todoroki slowly opens an eye to see the familiar, scowling face of Stain stare back at him, putting him back down on the ground. He turns, not paying Todoroki any mind, and looks up at the girl, who is gaping ghoulishly at him. "You again?" he calls, with a trace of annoyance in his tone. "I thought I told you to go away." "Stainy!" The girl jumps holy shit off the fire escape and rolls with the impact, popping up right next to Stain, looking like she wants to hug him. Stain, of course, holds her back with his hand, turning back to Todoroki, who is now watching the spectacle with amusement. "We meet again," Todoroki says with a smirk. Stain growls. "Don't test me, boy, I was just trying to find this gremlin dash." That was the wrong thing to say, because the girl cried out in happiness, her face a disgusting shade of red. "You were looking for me?" The girl's hand drifts towards her pocket knife, and Todoroki sees it before Stain does. He moves quickly, hand lashing out to summon his ice, freezing the girl's hand to the wall before she can start the bloody fun she was undoubtedly planning. He had no clue what this lady had against Stain, but hey, the man had saved his life twice now. That was a favor he wasn't going to forget. Stain reacts quickly, scaling the walls of the alleyway and jumping onto the roof, just like that night with the fire-breathing man. The alley is silent, the girl having ceased her struggling. "You're welcome." Todoroki calls after Stain. There's no response. "You're no fun." The girl pouts after the initial shock had worn off. "I wanted to get to know Mr. Stainy better." "You were going to gut him," Todoroki mutters. He climbs back up the fire escape, grabbing his olive green backpack and stuffing his untouched economy-priced ramen into his bag. Then, surprisingly strong hands grab him from behind, forcing him against the wall in a chicken wing pin. Todoroki freezes, the girl having him pinned, now ogling his backpack. "That's a really ugly backpack," she remarks. "Let me go." Todoroki hisses. The girl shrugs. "I will, if you do just one tinsy tiny thing for me, show." Her mouth curves into a menacing smile, all teeth and no friendliness. "You gotta help me find Mr. Stainy again." "What?" Todoroki blinks. That's it?" The girl smiles. "You seem to like Mr. Stainy as much as I do, and that's why I think we'd make the perfect team. You have a cool quirk dash. Pun intended?" The girl fixes him with a look that immediately makes him shut up. "And I have mad street skills. Together, we can totally find him." Her enthusiasm is contagious, despite Todoroki reminding himself that this lady was clearly a raving lunatic. And what choice does he have at this point? One condition. The girl nods. "Name it." "You help me make sure that Stain won't hurt another hero again." The girl looks surprised at this request. Then she laughs, releasing him from her clutches. "Your dad is real mean. I'm surprised you still want to help heroes," the girl says. Todoroki ignores the fact that she knows about his dad. It seems to be a common theme for street thugs to cheat on Endeavor 24/7. "Not all heroes SCK," Todoroki says, brushing his jeans off. "Besides, needless slaughter isn't really my thing." The girl actually barks a laugh at that and helps him with his bag. Crazy or not, she might be a good ally to have in the streets. He'd just have to be careful not to let his guard down in front of her. "I'm Toga, but you can call me Toga." Toga sticks out a dirty hand, smelling suspiciously like blood. To hell with it." They shake on it. 224. "I haven't really written in here in a while, have I? I can't even keep this consistent. School started, which has been okay. Sort of. Everyone's so energetic. Expect the spiky-haired guy. His name is Shinso. He's cool, I suppose, though I think he keeps me around just because I'm a loser. Can't really blame him. Been feeling shitty. Mrs. Sumika said that it's good that I'm doing this, work out how I'm feeling. Not really sure how writing in here helps, but whatever. I wish I was faster. I might have been able to catch him if I was quicker to run to the front of the school. Not that he'd care. He hates me anyways." 7. The more Kuda reads, the less he understands. Obviously, Bakugo thought no one else was going to read it, so he talked as if the reader already knew what was going on. Which makes sense but is also very frustrating. From what Kuda has gathered, someone that Bakugo knew committed suicide, and for some reason Bakugo felt bad about it. Survivor's guilt? Bakugo didn't seem like the type to be sad over someone who hated him. Then again, he didn't seem like the type to struggle with depression either. And yet, here he was, his writing screaming symptoms. Kuda wishes Bakugo had told him. He might have been able to help. After all, he knows what it feels like. Shinsu's glad Kuda's back. It makes him feel less alone. And on top of that, he can finally hang around someone who doesn't treat him like he's a fragile piece of glass that'll shatter at any moment. But something's on Kuda's mind. Shinso can tell, Kuda's expression far away, as if thinking about something. "You good?" Shinso asks during training for the sports festival. Kuda jumps, the bird he was talking to squawking in indignation from being flung off Kuda's arm, and flies off. "I'm okay," he signs hastily, Shinso needing a moment to translate the quick hand gestures. "I'm fine. I'm great. How are you?" "This again?" Shinso sighs, taking a break from his punching bag to sit down on the mat, Kuda handing him a water bottle. If I had a nickel for every person who's asked me that these past few days, I'd be a billionaire. Shinso lays down, face up, staring at the plaster and linoleum ceiling. That I'm okay. Kuda gives him a disbelieving look. Really? Shinso sits up, and with as much confidence as he can muster, attempts for a crooked grin. You don't need to worry about me. Kuda shifts, hands twitching nervously, like he wants to say something. But instead, he sits on his hands and is silent. The two sit, side by side on the mat. If anyone's not okay, it's Kirishima over there, Shinso drawls, jabbing a thumb over his shoulder at the redhead in question, half-heartedly sparring with Ojiro, face covered in bruises from being beat down by the guy's tail so many times. He looks like a train wreck. Use your pity points on him, not me. Kuda gives him one last look as if to say, please talk to me, and walks over to where Kirishima is. Shinsu's glad he's alone now. No one to coddle him. He's okay. Really. Kirishima really doesn't feel like sparring right now. But there he was, Ojiro beating the living shit out of him, and he was too exhausted to put up a real fight. He can feel his face swelling, Jiro's 50-pound tail having no trouble at all breaking through his hardening, and he just wants to sit down. Eventually, Ojiro stops. That was really weak. Ojiro says, tossing him an ice pack. I know. Kirishima mumbles, popping it open. And taking a swig. I just can't concentrate. Ojiro studies him quizzically for a few seconds, Kirishima pretending not to notice as he drains the water. You good? Kirishima finishes his water and sighs. No, he admits. I'm upset. Ojiro sighs. If you want to talk about it, I've heard this all before. Kirishima says, annoyance bubbling in his gut. Ojiro stands there blankly. I was going to say don't talk to me. I'm garbage with this kind of stuff. Oh. Despite how harsh that was, the honesty is refreshing. Thanks? Ojiro shrugs and goes back to the punching bag. Behind him, Kirishima can see Kuda staring at him. Kirishima pretends not to notice, thinking instead of tomorrow. The sport festival's tomorrow. Hope I'm ready. 226. We had a battle exercise today. I went up against this quiet animal dude. His name was Kuda, and he seemed nice. I don't know if he's actually mute or just shy. Not like I'm going to ask. I also stopped by the old fort. I wanted to take everything home, but it's also be a painful reminder. I don't need that sheet in my life. The waiting room in the stadium is quiet. Everyone is either silent or mumbling half-heartedly to each other. The silence is killing him, Kirishima decides. He'd rather everyone be angry than so subdued. So he stands up. Look, he starts, voice catching in his throat. Everyone turns to look at him, some confused, some impartial. He takes a deep breath. I know that it's been a hard couple of weeks. Everyone looks away, acknowledging his sentiment. But we can't just mope forever. He wouldn't have wanted us to do that. No one says anything, but their eyes all show the same agreement and guilt. And it's not a bad thing to be sad about this, Kirishima continues. But we came here to be heroes. And this stuff, it happens. And we have to get through it. His voice cracks. He kind of wants to stop talking, but he doesn't. There's no easy way around it. But we have to keep going, so that this sort of thing doesn't happen again. The silence is broken by a small cough. What about Todoroki? A small boy, Mineta, pipes up. He just left. I know, Kirishima replies. He did run off. But maybe if he can see the festival, he'll come back. Because he'll know that we're here. You sure? Kirishima walks up and puts a hand on Mineta's shoulder. I'm not. But we can try. Everyone perks up at that. Sports festival. Sports festival. Sports festival. Toga's been chanting that for the past 5 minutes, and Todoroki's, surprisingly not as annoyed as he would have been. All this time away from his dad has worked wonders for his tempers. A month ago he would have snapped and yelled at Toga, but now he could just very easily block it out. Why are you so excited about this? Todoroki Kami replies. The park they're setting up camp in is fairly empty. The police won't care if they see a scarred white-haired kid curled up in a sleeping bag next to another homeless kid. They see that every day. We can't even watch it anywhere, we don't have a TV. There should be a library around here, we could probably stream it on their computers. Toga replies airily. Todoroki nods, turning his attention back to the map of the district and its surrounding areas. Stain's been fairly active lately, he seems to be clearing up certain areas and then moving on to other ones. Todoroki frowns at the map, Toga peering over his shoulder. I just can't figure out his pattern, or if there even is one. Actually, he hasn't even touched Hosu yet. Toga points out. If I were him, I'd go there next. Todoroki raises an eyebrow. He hadn't even thought of that. Good eye, he says. Let's get some rest, and if we make good time, maybe we can find a library in Hosu to watch the festival. The stadium is very crowded. A little too crowded. Kirishima can hardly breathe, feeling everyone's eyes on him. He hardly hears Mike introduce their class, and doesn't realize his name is being called until Kaminari nudges him. Get up there. He whispers, pointing to the podium. WY. Kirishima hisses back. You were the top scorer in the exams, you've got to make a speech. I wasn't, that was Dash. So Kirishima slogs up to the podium, feeling everyone's eyes on him. He blinks, at a loss for words. He considers just doing the cop-out and just congratulations everyone. But something else comes out of his mouth instead. The person who should have been standing here in my place is no longer with us. He says into the mic. The crowd is somber. I'm sure you all heard it in the news. He takes a deep breath, channeling the energy he felt when he was giving the class a pep talk. It's horrible that he was gone so soon. Another breath. But if he were here, I'm sure he would have told everyone to do their best, and not just us. You guys too. He gestures to the crowd, who titter in response. We are the future of heroes. He says, feeling some of his confidence return to him. And we will make sure that this sort of thing, the death of a kid, will never happen again. Not under our watch. I cared about him quite a lot, even if I didn't know him that well. But I knew him well enough to know this. He was going to give it 100%. He turns to the students behind him. And I think we should all do that too. He bows and walks off the podium. Silence. And then someone starts clapping. And another. And another. Until the whole stadium was cheering and chanting. It takes him a minute to realize they were all chanting his name, students, teachers, and spectators. He couldn't believe it. He turns to one, jubilant. Only one person wasn't clapping. How could Kuda clap, knowing what Bakugo had done? He had finished the notebook last night, right before shoving it angrily at the bottom of his sock drawer and vowing never to think about Bakugo ever again. He wasn't a hero. He was bully. A murderer. He had never even told anyone what he did to that poor kid Dash. Kuda angrily wipes tears away from his eyes, ignoring his classmates' concerned glances. They probably thought he was moved my butt. Bakugo would never have told the crowd that, because Bakugo was secretly a self-centered JRK. Kuda clenched his fists, and silently vowed to never give Bakugo the time of day again. Instead he turned into Midnight, who was busy announcing the first event. A race. No maiming, killing, or going off-road. Other than that, you're free to do whatever your heart's desire. She waves her whip in the air for emphasis, and Kuda flinches. Line up at the start. Everyone did. Kuda scanned the determined faces of his classmates around him, all poised and ready to run. Ready? Kuda braced himself too, and then promised to himself that he'd win. For Midoriya, the kid who never had the chance to do this. Let the sports festival commence. Kirishima's skin aches. It's a side effect of his quirk, but as he's running through the torrent of robots that Mike had sized on them, he can't help but feel a little annoyed. Seriously, how many of these DMN things are there? And mix up the obstacles? It didn't really help that there was someone with virtually the exact same quirk as him right on his heels. Kirishima has no idea how to get him to stop tailing him. Thankfully, he doesn't have to, as his doppelganger is suddenly blown away in a cloud of pink smoke. Kirishima stops for a second to see a field full of what looked to be Mines. He breathes. He's about to start maneuvering through them when suddenly, someone blurs past him. And it's the last person he was expecting. Coulda never really understood seeing red before. The idea that your vision would cloud up when you're angry, and you'd be overtaken by all-consuming rage. He'd always thought that everyone should be able to keep their emotions in check, making the phrase invalid. But now he gets it. There is nothing but adrenaline and pure fury boiling in his veins as he runs like hell through the minefield. He can't stop, because if he does, he'll lose. And he can't let that happen. A mine goes off right under him, and he's blown backwards. Kuda grunts in pain, and stands up to run, ignoring his ribcage, screaming in pain. He steps on another one and his leg flies backwards, but he gets up, keeps going. Kuda dash, Shinso, who's hypnotized some of the 1B kids to carry him, bolts past. You're going to kill yourself. People are starting to pass him. He feels his eyes well up in frustration, and he drags himself forward, legs trembling. People pass him, not even stopping to look. And he then manages to hobble through the gate, dead last in the 42 that would be let through. He collapses on his knees, exhausted, looking up at the leaderboard. Kirishima's smiling face stares back at him, in first place. Kuda cries. The first place winner will have the 1,000,000-point headband. Everyone turns towards Kirishima. Oh shit. His headband would be the one everyone would go after. No one would want to team up with him with that glaring red target on his back. Or so he thinks. Hey, Kirishima. Shinso taps his shoulder. Kirishima turns to looks at him, his eyes reaching Shinsu's noise. You nervous? Yes. Are you? Kirishima fires back. Shinso glares at him. You know, you could just ask people to team up with you instead of brainwashing. I think you'd get more friends that way. Shinso looks guilty, rubbing the back of his head, and Kirishima laughs good-naturedly. Chill out, man, it was a joke. He replies. And we can team up if you want. Shinso brightens. Seriously? He says. No one's ever asked me to team up before. This feels kind of weird. Yeah, get used to it. Kirishima laughs. It's called being loved and appreciated. Kuda watches as his best friend teams up with Kirishima, along with an eccentric girl from the hero course, and he sighs. It's not that he dislikes Kirishima, the opposite, actually. But they were both fighting on behalf of two people who were bitter enemies. Not that Kirishima knew. Not that Kuda would tell him. Because as much as he wanted to scream the dirty truth to the world, he couldn't. His selective muteness was already hard enough. But then his hands would freeze up too and start shaking, his consciences wouldn't let him. You were friends with Bakugo. Why does this have to change? You know why, brain? Kuda mutters, just as Tokoyami approaches him, asking to join. Tsuyu does soon after, and then Shuji. So there's his team. Shuji in the front, Tsuyu on his shoulders, and Kuda and Tokoyami in the back. This should be interesting. Let the match begin. Who's the redhead? That's Kirishima. How about, that guy with the blonde hair? He wasn't in my class. I think his name is Momoma or something. Toga is busy bombarding Todoroki with questions as they sit in a cafe, watching the TV playing the sports festival in He Corner. They're not alone in this. Many of the cafe attendees' eyes were glued to the screen as well, watching the cavalry battle unfold. He sees Kirishima dodge a low blow from Tokoyami and sighs. That boy was always a beacon of optimism. Ooh, look at that. Toga would make a good YouTube commentator. She never shut up. It was close. It was so close. But in the end, Ida of all people snatched Kirishima's headband, in a lightning-fast attack that no one saw coming. But Tsu had managed to grab a 700-point band, and they had come in last, but enough to move them up. Kuda's team was in third, Tetsu's team in second, and Ida's team in first. They were going to the tournament. 227. Tired. Yue's been running me ragged. I stopped by the fort again today. I took a baseball hat that I left there back in grade school. Surprisingly, it still fits. Kuda and Shinso have been nice to me, which is pretty cool, but also kinda weird. I guess I've never really had real friends before. Except what would you forget it? This is stupid. AL? 5, it's been better lately. Kuda's plan to defeat Shiozaki works out perfectly, to everyone, but especially his surprise. Her vines left an opening behind her, so he had called all the birds in the area to observe the match until he made a very specific hand signal. When he did, the birds would swoop down and drag her out of the ring from the behind. It was a fairly simple strategy, but Shiozaki never saw it coming. That was smart, she says as he helps her to her feet outside the ring after the match. You've got a keen eye. I've been trying to figure out how to cover myself on the back for a while, but I thought no one had noticed that yet. Good luck in the rest of the matches. Kuda thanks her with a simple hand gesture and sends her on her way. As he walks back through the tunnel, his mind drifts to a conversation he had with Bakugo a while ago. He looks angry. Was dragging him through the vent too much? Kuda just wanted to win the exercise. A hand falls on his shoulder, and Kuda flinches, 1,000 thoughts running through his head. You fought well, Bakugo says quietly. He doesn't look mad. Just blank. The expression of someone who stopped caring a long time ago. Kuda signs a quick thank you, tearing his eyes away from Bakugo's intense stare. Bakugo wasn't mad. So why was he staring? Kuda rounds a corner and slams face first into someone. Oh god, sorry dude. Kirishima helps Kuda up, Kuda too woozy to protest. You good? Kuda doesn't say anything. Kuda. A hand brushes something wet off his cheek. He's crying. Okay? Kirishima slides down the wall to sit next to Kuda, whose head is between his legs. Was it something I said? Nothing. Kuda manages to warble out, nails cutting into his palms from how hard his fists are clenched. Nothing. Go away. Kirishima blinks. Sorry? Kuda doesn't say anything, furiously not looking at Kirishima. He's not exactly sure when he started directing all his fury at Bakugo towards Kirishima, but it's happened now. And he knows, in the back of his head, that he shouldn't. But like Bakugo, he stopped caring a long time ago. You want me to go get someone? Kirishima asks. Kuda sniffs. He hates that Kirishima is being so nice. It makes it hard to be angry. He shakes his head and Kirishima sighs. Okay. He mumbles, starting to walk away, before turning back. But, if you're not doing too great, you can always talk to me. Kuda doesn't say anything. You know that, right? Silence. Sorry. Kirishima rounds the corner and disappears, Kuda left behind on the floor. He doesn't really care that anyone can see him cry. Really, he doesn't. Stain is angry. He's always angry, but this was a different kind of anger. His normal anger was cold, controlled fury. But this was just pure frustration. He was sure those two kids were following him, as he kept seeing their faces around Hosu. He took steps to avoid them, but wherever he went, they followed. He wanted to scream. But now he has other things to take care of. Like the paralyzed Ingenium, laying on the ground of the alley. Ingenium spits out through gritted teeth. Are you going to kill me? Of course. Stain says coolly. It's in my name after all. He raises the blade to strike, and his arm is encased in a pillar of ice. Shocked, he lets go of his control over Ingenium, and the hero shoots up in surprise. Stain looks up to see. You too. He growls. Why the hell do you keep following me? I was threatened. The white-haired boy says dryly. And she's just crazy. The girl lets out a giggle that is not at all friendly or sane-sounding. Mr. Staney! She exclaims. Oh, I've waited so long to finally see you. No stabbing. The boy mumbles quietly. The girl huffs. Landing next to Ingenium, who's standing there, shocked. The boy points out of the alleyway. Go, he says. Get to the police station, tell them Stain's here. Ingenium bolts. Stain watches him go, annoyance and fury bubbling up in his gut. Fucker. He growls. The boy smirks. Nice job, Mr. Staney, he says mockingly. You just got yourself captured. Yeah, well, so have you. The boy pauses. I know you're a Todoroki. All I'd need to do is tell them, and then they'd track you down now that they know what you look like. The boy looks petrified, and Stain feels a tiny sliver of guilt for threatening the boy with his abusive father, but he squashes the feeling quickly. Let me go and I won't tell. He snarls. The boy looks at the girl, who's busy picking the blood under her fingernails out with a switchblade. One condition. The boy replies. Name it. You come with us. And stop killing people. Excuse me? Now the anger is real, boiling in his gut. You think you can just order me around? As a matter of fact, I do. The boy says. The girl giggles at that. Stain then catches the sound of police sirens in the distance. There's your deadline. The boy says. What's it going to be? Stain sighs. He could probably dispose of these two later. I'll come with you, just let me out. Gladly. He waves his hand, and the ice dissolves. And Stain promptly leaps up to the top of the building and dashes away. You motherfucker. Stain laughs, hearing the boy's enraged cry growing faint behind him. He doesn't really like his job very much. But dear man, if moments like these don't make it worth it. Shinsu's concerned. For a number of reasons, actually. For Todoroki, who's just vanished into the abyss. He's probably dead, but no one seems to have accepted that fact. Maybe it was the lack of a body. But more than icy hot, Shinso is concerned for Kuda. He's seen this pattern of destructive anger before. He was like this when his best friend was killed in a police shootout, trying to save her older brother from the cops. She hadn't even done any crimes, but there she was. Shot down and 6 feet under. Shinso had wanted to kill the policeman who shot her back then, who took his friend away. He wanted to burn the whole establishment to the ground. He had even punched the man in the jaw when he showed up for his friend's funeral. Himiko. He misses her even now. But now he's realized that his anger wasn't really getting him anywhere. All it did was give him the reputation of thug. But Kuda doesn't seem to have realized that yet. And it's showing in his reckless fighting style and pinched expressions. You good? Shinso asks after he meets up with Kuda once his match with Tetsu is over. I'm fine. Kuda tries to brush past him, but Shinso puts a hand on Kuda's shoulder, stopping the smaller boy in his tracks. You're not though. Shinosu mutters. Kuda's silent. You want to talk about it? Kuda laughs, bitter and sad. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. He replies coldly. Hey Dash. Shinso please. Kuda turns, face red and scrunched up. I appreciate your efforts, but please just leave me alone. Shinsu's stomach turns a little in embarrassment. Oh okay. Kuda stalks off down to the waiting room. When had things gotten so fed up? Well, that was an easy answer. When Bakugo had. And we're hitting the emergency exit on that train of thought. Shinso mumbles to himself, turning the other way. And then he saw the roster, posted on the wall. And who he was up against. Oh shit. We were so close. Todoroki flops over dramatically in the middle of the park, the midday sun warming his face. He can see, across the way, one of the big advertising screens displaying the sports festival. Toga didn't seem to be paying attention to his lament, too focused on the events playing out before her. Sho-chan, look. She shakes his shoulder, pointing to the screen. The birdie nearly took Red's head off. Todoroki looks up from his dramatic sprawl on the ground, to see Kirishima going toe-to-toe with Tokoyami. He feels a twinge of regret for leaving his classmates without saying anything. Well, except for one person. A person who happens to be standing right on the sidelines of the fight on screen. Momo looks tired to say the least. And she looks like she's lost weight. Why are you thinking about her weight? Of course she lost some, that's what her quirk does. Who's that girl, Sho-chan? Toga's suddenly a little too close for comfort, and Todoroki wants to run away. You seem to be staring at her a lot. Is she your girlfriend? The way she both held her pocket knife and said the word, girlfriend, did not bode well. No, she's just a friend of mine, Todoroki replies, waving Toga off. The last week with her has made him both privy to danger and numb to it. I knew her when I was a kid. Oh. She subtle slides the pocket knife back into the folds of her skirt, and Todoroki releases a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Okay then. The mood switching really makes him uneasy, and is a solemn reminder of the mental state of this girl, which is to say, not good. Shinso. Momo pokes her head inside the waiting room, where Shinso sits, head in between his hands. You good? I'm fine, Shinso says automatically, nerves on fire. Just psyching myself up. You know, to fight and stuff. Momo sits next to him. He doesn't object. You know, it's okay to be nervous. He's pretty strong and dash. I'm dash, Shinso exhales. He's got to stop lying to himself and everyone else. Thanks. Momo nods. After all of this is over, you want to go get ramen or something? Maybe that'll cheer you guys up. Shinso laughs a little bit. Since when did you become team mom? Since everyone needed a team mom. The intercom system in the room blares to life, familiar voice filled with static. Will Shinso Hitoshi please make his way to the arena? Aizawa's voice mumbles over the intercom. Well, that's me. Shinso stands. I gotta go. Good luck out there. Momo flashes him a thumbs up. Shinso smiles. I'll try. Fighting tactics race through Shinsu's head at the speed of sound. How was he going to hold his own against someone who knew what his quirk was and was a better physical fighter than him? All the hand-to-hand training with his uncle had paid off. He could fight, sure, but nowhere near to a good enough extent. What to do? His panic reaches a crescendo as he walks through the archway, sunlight streaming into his face as he heard Present Mike yell. Shinsu Hitoshi versus Kuda Kuji. The crowd's roaring jeers is really starting to get on Kuda's nerves. At first, and rightly so, he was terrified. But now, it's starting to impede on his concentration. Shinso was a tricky opponent. But thankfully, Kuda was versed in the art of not speaking, so hopefully his quirk wouldn't be an issue. The bigger problem is his fighting capabilities. Shinsu's as sneaky as they come, always playing dirty with a trick or two up his sleeve. And Kuda is really bad at reading his opponent. And not to mention Kuda couldn't use his quirk either, since if he said anything, Shinso could mind control him. Not gonna say anything? Shinso says, a sad look on his face. That's fine. Kuda doesn't let the boy monologue any longer than he needs to, charing forward with quiet determination. He lunges forward, but Shinso dodges, rolling out of the way and kicking Kuda's back, causing him to yelp and stagger forward. He retaliates by punching Shinso square in the face and kicking the taller boy's legs out from under him. Shinso rolls with the impact, retreating a few steps backwards. You'll never beat me if you're just going to fight angrily like that. Shinso yells over the roaring crowd. Get real, Kuda. Your physical fighting skills has always SCD. You might as well just give up now. Kuda grits his teeth at those words, but says nothing, silently lunging forward again, recognizing Shinso was just trying to antagonize him into talking. He swung again, only for Shinso to catch his right fist and fling him to the ground. The impact stuns Kuda for a few seconds, long enough for Midnight to ask if he forfeits. To that, Kuda staggers back up and faces Shinso again. The crowd roars at this. Shinso does not. Kuda tries again, but this time, feints Shinso out with a right, only to swing around and kick him in the shin. Shinso yelps and grabs Kuda by the collar, only for Kuda to grab him by the hair and pull him down to the ground with him. The match has devolved into a flurry of savage blows, both boys wrestling on the sand, kicking up dust over the heat waves and the crowd's frantic yelling and mixed commentary. The dust is in Kuda's eye, he can hardly see, but he kicks and scratches anywhere he can, Shinso doing the same. Both boys eventually stop, both kneeling on opposite sides of the field. What's this about, Kuda? Shinso yells to him. You think Bakugu would want you dash? I don't give a f about what Bakugu would want. Kuda screams, vice horse from the sand and the scratches. The arena is silent, Shinso staring at him, a mixture of disbelief and anger in his eyes. Kuda vaguely registers that he should have been hypnotized by now, but it seems that Shinso is too surprised to even react. And that's Kuda's opening. He yells to the high heavens, voice a shrill screech of a bird. Shinso seems to jump back into action, backing away at the swarm of black forming a cloud over the arena. And the birds attack. Shinso doesn't stand a chance, thousands upon thousands of birds swooping down to pull him up into the air, mirroring the first battle exercise. They pull him up, ignoring his shrieks and flailing, until they drop him, and he plummets 2, 3, 4 feet and lands in a heap outside the boundaries. The arena is silent. Then the audience starts screaming, some cheering, some booing. But one voice stands out over the rest. Shinsu is out of bounds. Kuda gets to his feet, staring at the boy in a crumpled heap on the other side of the field. The winner is Dash. And Shinso looks back, a mixture of pity and anger on his face. Kuda Kuji. That was brutal. Toga cries out as they sit in the crowd in the plaza, all glued to the screen. Did you see that, Shochan? I saw that all right. But Todoroki's too busy staring at a familiar face, wrapped in a scarf, watching from the other side of the plaza. Stain, dressed in civilian clothes, would have been virtually unrecognizable, if not for the small scar beneath his eye that Todoroki has memorized that haunts his dreams. He looks vaguely amused at the match that had taken place before him. Be right back, Todoroki says, standing up from the picnic blanket they were sitting on, and walks over to Stain. Stain doesn't flinch when he sees him, but his eyes do narrow when he gets close. You again, he says, voice as cold as Todoroki's ice. What do you want? Just to say hi. Todoroki sits on the bench next to him, making no moves, muscles relaxed. Stain gives him a look. We've been looking for you. Stain chuckles at that. I know. He says bitterly, face a mixture of annoyance and amusement. You two won't leave me alone. We need your help. Stain finally turns to look at him, red eyes flared up. I don't have time to deal with your daddy issues, kid, so Dash. I didn't just run away because of my dad, Stain. Todoroki says, contempt leaking into his voice. I'm looking for the League of Villains. Neither side speaks for a few minutes. Finally, Stain opens his mouth. You want to join those vagabonds? He snorts. No, I want to take them down. Stain's brow crinkles in confusion. That's suicide. He says. You and a psychotic girl can't take on a countrywide organization on your own. No, but you can help us. Todoroki turns to face Stain for the first time, single blue eye narrowed in determination. You know how to avoid the cops and how to get around quickly. Not to mention you hate them almost as much as I do. Does the girl know about this? Toga? Not exactly. Todoroki twists his knuckles, nerves starting to betray him. But I know she'd go along with it if Dash. Stop. Stain holds up a hand. Just stop. I know. I don't want to get involved in whatever you're doing. He stands up and walks away, back-turned. Sarah Kaizome. Stain stops. 16 on the day of the accident. He turns face one of uncontrolled fury. She was caught in the crossfire during a league standoff with the heroes. The hero X-Factor was the first to strike, killing the person who was holding her hostage and her as well. How do you know that? Stain hisses, hand reaching into his pocket to pull out a knife, blade glinting in the sun. It's amazing what the detectives will tell when you're holding up a very sharp piece of ice to their necks. Todoroki strains his neck, looking the taller man in the eyes. The league took away one of my classmates as well, and I know just as well as you do that heroes only take out threats that show up on the surface, never tracking down the source. He backs up a step, giving himself some room in case the man lunges. That's why people like us exist. Because we see what's wrong with the system. But you're going after the wrong people. Stain's grip on his knife loosens. I promise, after this, you'll never have to talk to me again. Stain stares at him for 1 second. 2 seconds. How do I know that the crazy blonde won't stab me? I'll make sure she doesn't. Todoroki replies. Stain PPS a half smile, sliding the knife back into his pocket. I'm going to hold you to your promise, kid. He says. They shake on it. Kuda stands outside the boys' bathroom, fists clenching with nerves. He had been a JRK to Shinso, and he needs to apologize. But confrontation isn't his strong suit. And nowhere is it showing more than at this very moment, where he was instantly regretting every decision that led him to this point. Be brave. It's what? Kuda opens the door a crack, peering inside. Shinsu's washing his hands, fingers curling and uncurling under the steaming faucet. Kuda takes a deep breath. No backing out now. Kuda jumps a mile, banging his head on the door. Shinso stares at him, dumbfounded. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. He stutters out before switching to sign out of pure habit. I got nervous. What for? Shinso asks, leaning on the side of the sink. I don't bite. Not anymore anyways. Kuda decides to disregard that cryptic statement and walks over to the tall boy, refusing to make eye contact. I'm sorry. He signs out slowly. I was a huge butt to you. Shinso tilts his head in confusion. You mean when we fought just now? It's a sports festival, no hard feelings dash. I mean about shouting at you. Kuda bursts out. You know, when you were trying to give me advice. Well, I didn't realize that may have not been the best time, Shinso admits, rubbing the back of his head. I mean, adrenaline was running high, and also we were in front of a bajillion people. Kuda looks down at his shoes, the bright color contrasting the gloomy atmosphere of the dark bathroom. You don't have to apologize for feeling things, Shinso murmurs. I can tell you're bottling up a lot of stuff. I don't know what it is exactly, but it's not what I thought it was. He pauses to take a watery breath. You want to talk about it? He does. Quite a bit. But at the same time, the revelation would crush Shinso. He would never admit it, but he looked up to Bakugo a lot. Finding out what he did? Well, Kuda couldn't do that to him. Have you ever found out that someone you like isn't who you thought they were? Kuda mumbles. Shinso shakes his head, and Kuda plows on. Because I did recently and it SCKS and I just feel bad about it. Hands shaking, he reverts to sign. I don't want to talk about it, but I just figured I'd put that out there. Shinsu's silent after the rant for a few seconds. Okay. I'm not going to press you for details. He holds up a hand as a sign of surrender. But Kuda makes eye contact for the first time. Shinsu's face is blank, but his eyes are watery and red. If you ever need to talk, just call me or some sheet. The end of the sentence is a small mumble, and Kuda, bleeding heart that he is, gives Shinso a hug. He looks surprised at first, but then smiles. You know, no one's ever hugged me before except my parents. He mutters. Kuda breaks off, looking embarrassed. Sorry, he signed, I should have asked. It's cool. You get bragging rights. Shinso swivels on a heel, heading for the door. Come on. You're fighting Tokoyami soon, right? The duo leave, not realizing someone was in the stall the whole time. Kirishima has a pretty good idea of who Kuda was talking about. Okay, Stain lays out a crude map he's drawn of the league's base and the surrounding buildings. If you really want to get in there, you need to be stealthy and know the layout of the land. He'd put the knife down, and thankfully, I've run into them enough times to draw this up. Toga, who was filing her nails with a knife, looked thoroughly uninterested, but Todoroki peers at the map with utmost intensity. Can you scale it? He asks, pointing to the drawing of a billboard. You can't scale anything if you know what you're doing. Stain remarks, rolling up the map. We'll think about this more later. For now, I'd like some food. I ran out of money yesterday. Todoroki mumbles, but was interrupted by Stain shoving a wad of cash in his face. Not anymore, you're not. He gruffly remarks. Let's go. And tell Crazy over there to leave the knife. You heard him. Todoroki hisses. Toga pouts, but drops the knife anyways. She has another one in her pocket. Not that she'd tell anyone, of course. The cafe is a nice place to grab lunch. There's just one small problem. A certain, currently not flaming shitbag father is sitting right by the window, looking at his phone. Sitting across from him is another hero that Todoroki doesn't recognize, but the wings are familiar. Sheet. He hisses before scampering out the door, leaving a confused Stain and Toga behind. They never ended up getting their food. Todoroki stares at his phone in the dark alley, final texts with Momo in his mind as the news on the phone lights up his face, casting harsh shadows. Behind him, Toga and Stain are working on the break-in strategy. In the distance, he hears the sports festival blaring on a large screen in the middle of the plaza, sound carrying over the city. Why'd you run off? Stain grunts. Todoroki looks up. Who, me? From the cafe. He stops sharpening his blade and stands. You looked like you'd seen a ghost. My dad. He confesses. I dunno if you recognized him without the flames, but he was there. Oh. Stain goes back to sharpening his blade, the alley silent and awkward. That we're gonna need help. Both Stain and Todoroki turn to Toga, golden eyes narrowed at the map. I hate to say this, but we're probably not going to make it with just the three of us. Our team isn't balanced. Todoroki's brows narrowed at Toga's uncharacteristically serious tone. Yeah. But who could we call? Both Stain and Toga turn to look at his phone. What's the look for dash? And then it dawns on him that she'll never agree. You saw her in the sports festival, she'd be great for this. Toga exclaims, pouting her lips. Besides, you two are friends, right? Todoroki shuffles. Kinda. He mumbles. We knew each other as kids. Look, Stain says, slinging his duffel bag over his shoulder. I'm with the Canadian flag here. I don't think it's a great idea to get anyone else involved. Come on. I'm the only girl here, I'm lonely. Toga makes the saddest face she can manage. Please. Stain glares at her. No one said this was going to be a walk in the park, kid. Don't like it, leave. Okay. Both turn to look at Todoroki. Okay. They both exclaim. I'll see if I can reach her. Todoroki pulls a policeman's phone he stole out of his pocket. I can't make any promises though. Sho-chan. Toga gives him a giant hug, arms surprisingly strong for someone so skinny. Todoroki flinches. Thank you so much. Stain facepalms. What did Bakuga do? The thought swirls around Kirishima's mind as he sits in the waiting room, waiting for the next match. Kuda was definitely talking about him. But what could he have done to PSS Kuda off so much? Kuda is so nice, it takes a lot to make him mad. Kiri. Ojiro pokes his head into the waiting room. We're about to go on. Cool. Over the weeks leading up to the sports festival, Ojiro and Kirishima has formed a weird friendship, a quiet one of sorts. Ojiro didn't smother him like a lot of his other classmates, and he appreciated that. Ojiro got when he wanted to be alone, when he wanted to talk. Despite claiming to not be great with people, he was better than he gave himself credit for. Aren't you supposed to be waiting in your waiting room? Kirishima asks. Ojiro chuckles quietly and closes the door behind him. Yeah, but I got lonely. He sits down next to him, quietly, hands fiddling with his tail. No hard feelings whoever wins, okay? Kirishima's head jolts up at that, and he turns to see Ojiro holding up his fist in a fist bump motion. Kirishima bumps fists. You got it, dude. The match is close. But Kirishima manages to pull through by throwing Ojiro out by his tail. The audience loves the spectacle, and by the end, they're chanting his name. I think you might be the fan favorite. Ojiro remarks as Kirishima pulls him up out of the grass. I think it's the hair. Kirishima rolls his eyes, but smiles. Momo didn't expect her phone to ding as she waited to fight Kuda. She certainly didn't recognize the number either. Who's this? It's Todoroki. Momo drops her phone. You good? Jaira asks her, cute and concerned smile on her face. Not now, gay thoughts. Momo swallows and nods. Where are you? Everyone's been worried sick. Meet me at the Hosu Plaza. Momo blinks. Hosu Plaza? That's so far off. Like a 20-minute train ride. It's important. I'm about to have a match. Please, Momo. Momo blinks. I need your help. She sighs. And when the match begins, she simply walks off, and out of the arena. To the train station. Hosu Plaza is mostly empty. There are, of course, a few people laundering about, but many are inside, watching the festivities on their TVs. Momo is not one of those people. Across the plaza, she spies a shock of white hair, badly dyed and a bandaged face. Her mind flashed to a certain angry RPG character, but she shakes her head and tries to put that out of her mind. Hey! Todoroki waves to her, across the plaza. Momo esses in a breath through her teeth, fists clenching and unclenching. Slowly, she starts to walk towards him, breaking into a run. Todoroki awkwardly holding out his arms for a hug. Thwack! You JRK! Todoroki looks up from the ground, holding his red cheek where Momo had punched him. You just left. Without saying anything. I can explain. The boy replies, looking sheepish. Momo sticks her hands on her hips. You better. Because if you don't, I'm going to punch you again. Hey Dash! A figure emerges from the shadows, a tall, scraggly-looking man in a hoodie. Momo takes a step back, but Todoroki places a hand on her shoulder. It's okay. This is Kaizome. He's my friend. The man Kaizome sticks out his calloused hands for Momo to shake. She does, but tentatively. Does he look so familiar? Anyways, says Kaizome, pulling away awkwardly. We didn't call you here for no reason. I figured. Momo replies. What is it? The League of Villains. Momo's heart turns to ice. What about them? They were apprehended, weren't they? The goons were. But the leaders were not. Momo esigues in a breath. I thought Dash. I know what you thought. I thought so too. Todoroki shoots back. But they're still out there. And they're going to hurt more people. They're going to do to others what they did to Bakugo and almost did to me. The name of her deceased classmate sends a jolt down her spine, almost as if someone was watching her. What does this have to do with me? She mumbles. We're going to stop them. Momo's eyes widen at that statement. Excuse me? You heard the kid. Kaizome shoots back. The League. We're not going to let them hurt anyone anymore. Momo looks from Todoroki to Kaizome, back to Todoroki. Why don't you let the police know about this? Surely they'd do a better job than you guys could, and then you could come home. Because, Todoroki trails off, looking downcast. Because that's not the reason I ran. Momo arches a thin eyebrow. Then why? He doesn't answer, eyes still cast downward at his feet. My dad. He mumbles finally. What would your dad have to do with Dash? Then, it clicks into place. Oh God. That's how he got his burn scar? His father did that to him? Burned his face? Endeavor always seemed harsh on TV, but to do something like that? God, I'm sorry. Todoroki shrugs. Thanks, I guess. She turns to Kaizome. And what about you? She asks. Why don't you go to the police? Kaizome tugs the collar of his shirt awkwardly. Me and the police don't really get along. And besides, the heroes only take out visible threats, and the detectives that investigate crap like this haven't been doing a great job, only that isn't really their fault. The League's just good at covering their tracks. Momo looks away, downcast. Momo! Todoroki places a hand on her shoulder, a look of sincere and genuine worry and hope on his face. Please. We need your help. Are you asking me to run away from home? No, just help us when you can. I can text you when I need to. Momo brushes his hand off her shoulder, face red. Why me? He smiles. Because you're smart. And we're a bunch of dumbass. Momo sighs. Fine. But be careful. They shake on it. Yeah, someone shouts from the alley. America! We live in Japan, Tuga. Todoroki shouts back. Momo blinks. That's Tuga. I know, she's a little Dash. He does a swirling motion with his fingers by the side of his head, but she's cool once you get to know her. I'm sorry to say that I won't be completing this FIC. Truth is, I've lost all passion for it, and I don't want to continue a FIC that I don't even like, and that is hard to keep up with because of my busy schedule. To sum up what would have happened. After his match with Momo, Kuda talks to Ms. Bakugo to ask about the reason for Midoriya's death. She reveals that she knew, but also recognized how regretful her son was for it. He tried his best to atone, and Ms. Bakugo didn't want to make his state worse. She also reveals that she and her husband are getting a divorce because of their son's death. Both feel responsible. Meanwhile, Todoroki, Toga, Momo, and Stain all find out too late that the League is going to bomb the sports festival, and then all make a mad dash for the stadium, arriving to find it swarming with villains and blown up. The entirety of Class 1A fights their way out of this, and together, through their combined efforts, they all defeat All for One with All Might's help, though Shinso loses an eye in the process, much like Shigaraki did. Stain, regretful for his jaded actions, sacrifices himself for Todoroki, but not before telling him that his power is his own, and that he was right. Revenge wasn't the answer. In the aftermath, Toga is taken to a mental institute, and most of 1A is admitted to the hospital to heal for a bit. It's there that Kuda reveals what he knew about Bakugo to Kirishima and Shinso, who both are shocked, but also recognize his growth and regretfulness. And as for Todoroki, he finally gets the help he needs, and Endeavor is arrested. The FIC ends with a time skip to a graduated Kuda, Kirishima, and Shinso sitting by Bakugo's grave on the 5th anniversary of his death, reflecting on the events that lead up to this. A certain kind of impact will be finished, however, as it only had one more chapter anyways. I'm sorry I couldn't meet yours or mine's expectation. Feel free to yell at me in the comments. I'm really sorry. Squiped understanding.